We're back after, I think, 1 week off of the Irrelevant podcast, joined once again by Jason in the season of Lent.
What's up?
Thank you. How you doing tonight, man?
You know what? I'm doing great. Seems
Okay.
to be better than you're doing tonight, but
No,
let's go.
I'm fine, dude. It is not a big deal.
Cool.
um, so, you went somewhere, didn't you? And, like, that's why you couldn't do the podcast?
Yeah, I was just visiting my parents over the weekend,
Okay.
having a break from paying for my own food and driving my own car. It's nice every once in a while.
That is true. That is true.
you know.
um, so I recommended to Jason some Taboo, which is classical music. Um, I remember you told me, correct me if I'm mistaken, that you weren't too familiar with classical music in general.
For the most part, I mean, I know, some of the most famous ones just from movies. So
Right.
I have I was never really interested in checking out more of it. That's kind of my thing.
Okay. So like you heard like the obvious ones.
Yeah, like massive composers, obviously Bach, Beethoven, Vivaldi, Wagner, all that shit.
Right. I have a lot of that here, but I tried to not do any of besides Mozart, I tried to not do any of like the obvious picks, you know? I tried to focus more on not like their obscure stuff, but oh, by the way, everybody, I'll put the link to this playlist in the description. I think it's quite excellent. I'm impressed with myself. With the collection of classical and baroque music that I was able to compile together. So, I decided to do, like I said, not obscure things from these different composers, but stuff that I personally thought was like their best thing without it being like the obvious ones. Like I wanted to give you like enough stuff that it was new and like it might not sound like stuff you'd heard before, but then it also still kind of sounds like stuff you'd heard before. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so what did you think?
Whew, this is gonna be interesting. I'll tell you what.
Mhm.
So I have to say, I think this is probably one of the more rougher lessons for me. Um,
Okay.
I think mainly because the harpsichord is, for some reason, just one of those instruments that just doesn't do it for me. And I think it's because it's dated really to the colonial period. I think that's
Uh,
the only heyday for this kind of thing. I actually have a lot to say about all of this. I really tried to turn my analytical mind on, but I would say that like this is really probably the furthest out of my wheelhouse for music that I could ever try to enjoy. But out of this entire list, there's one song that I actually really really love, and the one that I would play again and again and again um, is on this list, and I'll talk about later. But starting off so I guess the first five were different harpsichord melodies, and they're all by the English Concert and a guy named Trevor Pinnock. So was he playing? I'm assuming he's playing. What composer was he playing? Because I'm not familiar.
that was Bach. So Bach is generally considered like the grandfather of like Western music. Um,
Okay.
so I'm trying to give an example. He's like the Black Sabbath, right, of classical music, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
So like I said, the first song, like it just it sounds too colonial for me. Um, just in general, I don't like the tone of the harpsichord. I feel like it's not a very dynamic instrument, because with a piano you can have a little bit more timbre to the piano, but the harpsichord it's so much higher pitched. Like I don't like higher pitched stringed instruments because you don't. It's the same thing. It's like a comparing a ukulele to a guitar, because you can get a ton of sounds out of a guitar, but you can't really do that with a ukulele, mainly because it's a shorter scale length, meaning the actual distance between the nut of the guitar to the saddle, so the string tension is very loose, but it's also turned high, so it's this weird dichotomy of like choked out notes. So I feel like it's kind of the same thing in the harpsichord. It's not a very dynamic sounding instrument, so everything you hear from it, it's going to sound very similar. Um, the second one, I like the melody a little bit more,
Wait,
and I like the
sorry.
what?
I needed to put my 2 cents in about how I feel about the harpsichord.
Go ahead.
Well, it's not exact. It's not like the exact opposite, but I thought you were really gonna like the harpsichord, especially these Bach um harpsichord melodies. And I thought you would see. Oh, I don't know if you saw it or not, but I thought you would really think it was cool, like the correlations with metal and like especially prog metal. A lot of those similar kind of arpeggios that are used. Um,
Yeah, so and this is, and I'll touch about this on some of the songs. It's the fact that it's the focal instrument, and the fact that there's not a lot of rhythm. Like I feel like there needs to be some sort of rhythm instrument underneath of it, and I make a comparison to reggaeton and some of the other songs. Like that's the same fucking rhythm over and over again, but it's a
Jargon.
bass slash rhythm percussion. It's not the focal point of the song, and it's not the main melody of the song. So I feel like they're playing the same sort of 16th note, eighth note rhythms at a steady, like there some of them are just even the same tempo, and so like you have the same timbre of note or the same type of notes that are playing on slightly different melodies, and it just doesn't, like I said, on the harpsichord I feel like the dynamic of it's lost because like I can't even tell different melodies that it's playing sometimes, and it just all kind of sounds like it's the same melody. Because like there's all like dun 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 dun
it
dun, like it just does that the entire time.
it
So
kind
that's what I'm
of
saying. It's the focal point of the song, and there's no other thing that you really can focus on, minus the in and outs of the stringed instruments like the cello, in and out sometimes.
well. So I know a lot of people would probably say this about anything that they like and they show somebody else. Like I think this kind of music, and I know I gave you a lot of music. I grant you that. It's like this play is like an hour and a half. Um, it really does require long periods of time just listening to it, like just on repeat, and like you just kind of eventually just roll with it, and it just kind of takes you away. Like it's almost like you were talking about the harpsichord, and it being like too colonial. Like for me, it's like the harpsichord. It's almost ethnic in a way. Like it's because we don't really think about things being like ethnically Western. Like I guess. But like that's just kind of what I think about. I'm like, oh yeah, that's something like on the world stage that like yeah, like the West knows what they're doing. um,
Well, it's very dated to that period because that's the period of when that was happening. Is like what, the 15th to the 18th century. I know the colonials was mainly
right,
like,
and it
you
but
know,
it that
but
right, but that's when like it gives you those images of like like that Western Christendom aesthetic with like the churches, right? Like the Gothic cathedrals, and also like the like the tricorn hats and like the powdered wigs and that traditional Western European clothing, which I think it just
yeah.
like I don't know, like it kind of paints that. Like I know a lot of people look at that and it's just like, oh, it's boring, or just white people, but I think it actually brings that out and shows to people that might think that no, this culture has something to offer on the world stage that I think is worthwhile. That's just kind of how I see it.
Yeah, no, and it definitely takes skill and talent to do it, but you made the parallel to progressive music, and that's kind of my point. Like it's like what's why I think it's interesting. You don't like Scale the Summit because it's a lot of the same kind of stuff. However, with
It's
Scale the
not
Summit, they
ethnic.
have so much other different types because it has the bass doing a simpler melody, it has a simpler progression on the drums, and there's other like slower down. Like it's not the same type of feel the entire song, but it's the same sort of like if they're shredding scales and arpeggios on the guitar, it's kind of doing the same thing on the harpsichord. So it's a lot of neoclassical style too. A lot of neoclassical guitar shredders do kind of the similar thing. Um,
Well,
but the second song, I like the melody a little bit
okay.
more on it, and then the cello kind of came in a little bit nice. I'm a big fan of the cello, kind of whenever it comes. So that one I did like that song a little bit more. The third song, it just sounded like a slightly slowed down version of the first song. It's like they took the same song but slowed the tempo down, kind of. And like I said, because the harpsichord is the main thing, that's all you're hearing is that straight note pattern the entire time.
But like,
And there's
okay,
no like backing rhythm behind it.
I know it's clear we're never gonna agree on this, just because it's just a matter of preference. But like, You really don't like how the harpsichord sounds? I think it sounds so pretty and relaxing, especially with all of
No, and
the.
that's
Yeah, I mean,
I don't. I mean that,
okay.
and that's and I can let that slide. Like I said, I don't like the trumpet, but there's some songs I like the trumpet in. But the fact that this is the focal point of the entire like this is the driving force of the genre is this main harpsichord melody, and everything else kind of plays around it. That's why, as a song, like it's hard for me to focus on because it's the same type of rhythm and slightly different melodies at very similar tempos throughout most of these songs. But yeah, I mean, the fact that I just don't like the physical sound of the harpsichord because I don't think it's a very dynamic sounding instrument.
I just
Like it doesn't have
I
like different like
it
the notes just like I don't hear like individual. I hear like the same tone of notes. I guess is what I'm saying, and I also might be because I don't play it, so like I can hear different note subtleties on guitar because I play guitar, and I hear it on cello, and I hear it on other instruments. But like I said, I don't hear it on trumpet, I don't hear it on ukulele, and I don't hear it on harpsichord. There's just certain instruments that don't have the range of frequencies that you can hit on it. It's a very specific stylized sound. Same thing with like a drum set versus like a metal drum. Like a metal drum, you know instantly it's a metal drum, and you're going to have very specific tones you can't change, but you can tune drums, you can change the sound, the size of the drum makes a difference, so it's a more dynamic instrument. So that's kind of the main. I think that's why they stopped using harpsichords and they just started using piano for everything. Like nobody plays a harpsichord anymore, they all play piano. It's for that same kind of reason,
right.
because it's just not a dynamic instrument. You can only do one style with it, really.
Yeah, that's fair, but I think the actual style that you can do with it, it's just so I guess there's something just kind of magical to me about the harpsichord and the way it sounds. Like the way it sounds, it's almost like this sort of like sparkling fizzy drink, like transcribed into music, if that makes sense. Like no other instrument really gives me that kind of feeling. It's really interesting to me. And also like just uh, like I always talk about, I love like seeing, like marks and like iconography of like different cultures and stuff like that, and things that like construct like a people or a place or a thing or like an idea or like a nation and everything. And just not everyone, some things are better than others, but like is when you hear like the mandolin, you'll think like, oh, like that's Greece, Italy, like Mediterranean kind of stuff. And then when you hear like, like ode, you'll think like, oh, that's like, Middle East, Saudi Arabia, all that stuff. And then I just think like I never really thought to myself, I'm like, okay, what's like the equivalent of like, okay, that's like Western Europe, like Germany, Austria, France, and all that stuff. And then I was, oh, this is it. And I think it's interesting in that aspect.
Yeah, I think the cultural and the cultural aspect is interesting,
Yeah,
and
that's
like I
really
said,
it.
there's nothing else that's like it. So, but that doesn't make it a great sounding thing to my ears. That just makes it more interesting if I like it. If I think the cultural aspect is interesting.
Yeah,
But
I mean, I
even
just
like with ethnic stuff, like with the mandolin, I feel the same way about a mandolin, but I don't feel
oh
the same way
shit,
about an ode.
you don't like the
Because the
mandolin?
mandolin, the tension is way too high, and you're only hearing a high end frequency of those notes, and they're tuned up higher. So like you can really only strum on the thing and pick it. Like you can do some picked melodies that sound kind of cool, but what you're hearing is what you're gonna get. But the ode, also the fact that the ode is fretless, so you can even intonate and do some microtones, and you have a lot more things you can tune it to. You can tune it lower, you can tune it higher. It has a longer scale length, so you have a chance to hit more frequency of notes. So the ode is just a more dynamic instrument than the mandolin. That's what I'm saying. Certain instruments just have better range than some others do, and that's why you can play different styles with it.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. I guess like I mean, I am not thinking about that as much. I mean, obviously, you having said these things does bring those kind of things to my attention. But I don't. Yeah, because I am a big fan of the mandolin. I go back and forth of which one I like better, mandolin or the ode. Um, but about like the dynamic stuff, like it's the same thing. Like I have a similar feeling to the mandolin that I do the harpsichord, where it's like the cultural ethnic thing, and also like just I legitimately do just like how it sounds, even if it might be one dimensional. I just like the like you said, like what you get is what you're gonna get, and I like what I get for that.
Well, culturally with the mandolin, you have a bunch of other stuff because most people play it in folk or bluegrass, right? So it's like
That's true.
sometimes
Yeah.
it's just a strummer to be like a added, you know, an added little salad to the guitar if they're playing the same rhythm. Or sometimes they do like a picked melody, which is cool. But again, the main focus is the vocals, and then you have the driving rhythm of the bass. So like you have a bunch of instruments that come together that you can change between them, right? I mean, bluegrass I think is a pretty boring genre. I think it's cool at festivals, but like I won't sit there and
What?
listen to bluegrass. But
What is that?
like it has a hmm?
I'm not familiar with what that is off the top of my head.
It's like it's like a mixture of country and folk. It's kind of quirky. Um, a lot of people sing in unison. It's really mountainy, kind of
Like,
mountain rednecky.
could you give me an example?
I'm
If
I
not,
don't
we can
know.
just.
Like I don't know bluegrass music. I don't know bluegrass musicians. I've just
Okay.
every festival in Virginia I've ever gone to, there's just people playing bluegrass. Some guys on an upright bass going do 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 do, and then like
Okay. Interesting.
it's just really fucking.
Interesting.
um,
Um.
but so going back to the fourth one, I like the fourth track a little bit better. The melody kind of reminds me of a RuneScape track. I don't know if you ever played RuneScape, but it's like a medieval fantasy kind of MMO, and it had a bunch of medieval sounding tracks on it, and a lot of it were like electronic harpsichord kind of sounds. But they also had other synths and other stuff too. But I like the melody on this one. It also kind of sounds like a nursery rhyme, which is interesting. And
Ah.
then
Okay.
I like the orchestral swells that came in and out in the background. That was a nice touch in that song.
And you said
Um,
you liked the third one, correct?
no, I like the second track. The third track I thought was just a slightly slowed down version of the first song.
Oh. I like the.
Um,
I. I. I wanted to point out. I think the third track has a really nice key change into the song, and it becomes almost like a because it's like a happy song, but then the key change it becomes like a minor all of a sudden.
yeah,
I thought that was
that was a
just
cool part in the song.
right. I mean, other than that, I don't think it's as good as the other ones. I still really like it. Obviously, like I wouldn't have picked it, but I really think the fifth song from Bach that I picked, I think that's the best one.
Yeah, and I made that notes like this is the one that I like the best out of the other four.
It had the rhythm
The
like
constant,
you were saying was lacking in the other ones. I was gonna I wanted to bring that
yeah,
up, but then I wanted to wait until we actually arrived to the song. But yeah, like I was like just kind of tapping like my hand on my car like a metronome as I was listening to it.
yeah. I mean, for me, like I'm a rhythmic person. I learned playing bass. All the metal that I like has insane rhythm. So, if the melody is not going to have a specific rhythm, if it doesn't carry the entire song, or if it's a really catchy melody, like I need the song to be rhythmically catchy. Especially if there's no vocals or nothing going on with any other instruments, like I need some sort of rhythm. But this one I could see really the big influence with like metal players and the way that the rhythm was constructed and the way that the notes were kind of sound like shredding a little bit. Um, and I was thinking about this in the background. I'm like, this would be a really good song to add drums to, because like
Yeah.
doing some like cymbal hits on the accents
Bum, bum,
while
bum,
the fucking
bum,
cellos are
bum,
going crazy.
bum, bum,
Yeah,
bum, 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 da-da-da-da-da. I like those little trills that the harpsichord does.
yeah.
It's really it's delightful.
Oh, that is actually the one thing I do like about the harpsichord is the trills that they do. I,
Yeah,
I
you
actually
gotta
really do
admit.
like this. That sounds cool. Yeah, I mean you can't deny that doesn't sound cool.
It just
I forgot
sounds
to mention
like
that.
you know the soundtrack in like the third Harry Potter movie. They used a lot
Mm,
of harpsichord in that, and it just kind of it has that really interesting like kind of Shakespearean sound almost.
yeah.
It just yeah, I really like that cultural aspect to it, like just that.
I don't remember. I have to listen to that back. I'm blanking. Because the only thing that's playing in my head is the fucking theme song, so I can't think of anything
Yeah,
else
no,
besides
it's
that.
right. Right, no, but the third Harry Potter soundtrack is actually like probably my favorite movie soundtrack ever. Like just and I don't even really think of it as like Harry Potter music. Like I'll just listen to it and it's similar to this kind of stuff I showed you. Like it's so cool. Actually, I wouldn't mind
Yeah.
recommending that. Just the soundtrack to the Harry Potter 3 movie.
I do remember it was slightly interesting, but I
Yeah,
really don't have too much memory of it.
they like John Williams composed a melody to Double Trouble, the thing in Macbeth.
Okay.
Like the double double da 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 da. That you know what I'm talking about?
No, but it sounds familiar.
Okay. But yeah, so that was Johann Sebastian Bach. Now the next guy I recommended to you was Johann Christian Bach, who I believe is his son.
And this is Virginia Black
Yes,
that
the
played this.
that played this. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I know it's so
So
confusing because all this was like recorded like so it's like who do you credit it to? Um,
okay, so this is probably going to be the roughest segment. So I'm trying to find a way to describe this.
so you didn't like it?
It just no, I didn't. It just sounded like it was just straight wanking. Like the notes just felt random. The tempo slowing down and speeding up all the time. It just had like an improvised kind of feel to it, and it just like there didn't seem like there was any structure to it at all. Especially because there's nothing in the background. You just have to focus on the notes that's playing, right? So like I couldn't really catch a melody really. Like I heard like the notes going up and down, and it just the whole thing just sounded random. So I think this is my least favorite one on the track. And then the next one, um, it sounded like the classical version of a slot machine or like an arcade where it's like the when the wheels are spinning and then like the sounds kind of speed up like
I
that's just kind of what it sounded
I
like.
refer like I love the part where they just like he starts down and just like I thought that sounds excellent.
It's one of those things like it sounds cool because it's a technically difficult thing to do, but it's the equivalent of like somebody like playing really fast on a guitar randomly. Like it just doesn't have
Yeah,
any
but
sort of structure at all.
I disagree about the randomness. There's something about it I guess that I just see differently. I don't know. Maybe
Well, obviously, it's not random. Like it's in key and everything, but just like the way that they organize the notes and the rhythm, because it was a constant fucking rhythm. It's like, like you know what I mean? Like they didn't have any sort of
a
like
really
tension or build or release or anything. Like it's constant the entire time for the most part.
right. I guess like a fair comparison would be like polyrhythmic jazz. And I don't remember what you said you did or did not like that.
Um, I would like playing it more than I would like listening to it because like same thing with Meshuggah because Meshuggah is pretty much like polyrhythmic metal. It's kind of a hard listen, but it's really fun to play, and I like the concept of polyrhythms interests me, and I just like practicing to them. And same thing with Tool. Tool does more palatable polyrhythms, mainly more on the drums or like when the guitars sing together. So I wouldn't sit down and listen to the jazz, but I would like to see it in person or like play like a bass line to it because it's fucking difficult. Like you hear some of those people that play that shit, it's insane. I also to try to keep that in time. So I find polyrhythms interesting, but I don't like it is a harder listen because it's hard to catch the groove. It's not catchy. You have to be you have to really be creative to make a polyrhythm catchy, and I think Tool does that the best in my opinion. So does Meshuggah, but Meshuggah is also a hard listen to a lot of people.
Okay. Okay.
But this one, it didn't feel like it was polyrhythms. Like it was the same rhythm throughout the whole song. I just felt like the notes was just it just wasn't. I don't know. It lacks structure to me.
I guess all I could say is just listen to it more.
I did. I listened to it like 3 times because I really tried to catch the beats and the melody and the notes to it, and it's just like it's like the same thing with death metal or a lot of like the brutal death metal. It's like super fast and doesn't really have any sort of flow to it. It's just like you
Right,
just
but
hear the
that's
fast notes of the distortion. It's the same kind of thing to me.
but I think it's similar concept in that that's a very like acquired taste, right? And I know acquired taste doesn't necessarily mean like good, right? But I
I'm
think
not talking about the vocals. I'm just talking about the way that they do the fast notes and the instrumentation of it.
well,
Not, I know like being screaming is the acquired taste of it.
well, even so, like just I think the genre as a whole, like death metal, is pretty acquired. I mean, I haven't acquired it.
Well, I think classical is too, because not that many people listen to classical these days. I feel like more people listen to metal than classical.
Yeah, no, that's true.
So, I mean, they're both in their own right.
Right, but
But then there's also metal that's really catchy, and there's also classical that's really catchy. So it just depends on what you're listening to.
right, and
But
that's
stuff like this, I think, is more of a niche. Like I think people that listen to classical music won't listen to stuff like that
okay. Well, yeah. So
more than like other famous classical pieces.
yeah, you can. I hopefully like you like observed on this thing that like there's multiple different obviously types and like eras of like the classical music blanket term, right? With like
Oh yeah, and it gets better in the second half of this list too. I just
oh, that's
wanted to
good. Okay, so
just because you think it's going nowhere, it's definitely going more in a positive direction. It started like it's like a meter; it just keeps going up
well, it was
as the
okay.
list goes down.
So I guess it was too much Bach, and then now we get into yeah. I think generally speaking, Mozart is much more palatable.
Well, his melodies are definitely catchier because I
Right.
can, off the top of my head, like I can fucking recite you a Bach or a Mozart melody, but like like I think Bach is just too wanky for me. I think that's just what it is.
Um. There's like this certain quality in Bach's music where it almost feels like empirical. I know not necessarily like I guess you wouldn't agree with me on the two oh no, that wasn't even Bach. That was Johann Christian Bach. Sorry. In Johann Sebastian Bach, a lot of his music it just kind of just intrinsically makes sense. Like it's just like, yeah, that's good music. Like you can't like I don't know. There's just certain something like about the way the instruments are used, or like the way I don't know, like the melodies are and the way like the scales are used, where it's like you might not like it, but I think like it's hard to say like yes, objectively this is bad.
No, I don't think it's objectively bad. I just think that it's hard to get into if you don't truly appreciate it for what it is.
I guess. Um.
Um,
Well,
because like I said, if you don't care about the cultural aspect and you're just going purely based off of how it sounds, I
that's
think it takes a little bit more attention to really enjoy it. And that's the case with a lot of music that's an acquired taste or more in a niche genre. You have to really appreciate it, or it really has to connect with you, or you have to put a lot of critical thinking power into appreciating it. However you enjoy your music, just like however you drink your fucking wine or whatever snobby profession that you're into.
yeah. We
It just depends.
yeah. I think you brought that up in the mariachi episode. I think it's a
Yeah.
similar sort of thing can be applied here.
Well, it's just like with music in general. Like people are just different genres are gonna resonate with people differently, and I think the more you go into a genre, the more obscure or the more niche that you go into that genre, it takes more attention and more appreciation and understanding than it does from stuff on the surface level. Because like I can listen to a song that sucks, but if it's catchy, I can listen to it and it's fine. But stuff like this, if it's just idly playing in the background, it's like I'll never pay attention to it ever. But I have to sit down and force myself to really catch something because it's just not a style of music that I generally naturally enjoy. So I have to pick out aspects in general. But I think it's hard because like there's no driving rhythm in a lot of these songs, and that's why it gets the I hate doing the they all sound the same thing. But like this one is very difficult to differentiate between the two, especially because all the melodies are fast paced and there's no simple rhythm behind them. Because like you can have and metal, and I'll give you actually here's a perfect example. So metal, right, with the speed chugging riffs, a lot of them are the same, like 16th notes, eighth notes, 30 seconds, whatever the fuck, or tremolo, right? But the drum pattern changes underneath of them. So like when you change the rhythm, it really changes the melody or the notes that are on top of it. It almost feels like it's two different songs, the way the drums change the feel of the song, right? And also like you can do different rhythms. Like you can pretty much do any rhythm you want and you can lock it down with the bass and the drums. If you go on YouTube and you watch a video of classic songs that like this guy he's a metal drummer and he takes classic songs like Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, Metallica, AC/DC, and he changes the drum patterns underneath of the famous songs, and sometimes they're almost unrecognizable because they're so different. So rhythm is a really big indicator of how your song is going to feel and the structure of it. So if you have no defining rhythm, your melodies are going to sound the same because they're all playing technically at the same rhythm. But I can name 100 metal songs that have the same chugging pattern or a similar chugging pattern, but since the rhythm of the drums is different underneath of it, it's a totally different feel. It's a totally different sounding song.
In
So
due
that's kind
time,
of why.
in due time, you will enjoy Johann Sebastian Bach.
I'll have to do a lot of. I'll have to try to play it, which is going to be difficult. I think like
Get
that's how
out the
I'd get the true
harpsichord, baby.
appreciation of it. Was trying to. It's probably hard enough on guitar to play.
Yeah, well, no, a lot of people can play Bach on guitar because I mean, it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And what I'm saying is like it's just a difficult genre in general. I would just have to get a. That's how honestly how I would get the best appreciation is trying to learn how to play it.
Well,
Because
so something I wanted to bring up was that I'm not saying like you have to listen to this in like a person in an orchestra, but it is obviously like some. I mean, obviously like maybe like context is important, like where you are when you're listening to music, what environment you're in, obviously. But I get a similar feeling. I mean, I don't know how you listen to this. I don't really know how you listen to any of really the music that I recommend, but I don't know, like just like when I listen to this music in the car, like especially like the stuff the first five songs, um it just and like it's just I have like I have it at like a pretty high volume level and it's just me and like I have nothing like it's very releasing, I guess. It's very relaxing. It's very like Avatar mode esque. I don't know, in the sense that like you go and just like see a dragon. Like that's just not necessarily like in that way, but I just feel like it's that similar kind of concept of like a safe haven. You know, that's what I kind of get with this music, and it just kind of makes me think. It makes me well, relax myself, obviously, but then it also what was I gonna say? It makes me think. It makes me relax. It makes me I don't know. Like it just kind of like when I listen to this music and I'm driving around, it just kind of makes me see everything differently almost, and it just and it conjures up images of like the culture and land that it comes from, and I don't know. Like it just kind of makes me think of like this is why just really like ethnic music a lot. Um, Not necessarily tied to any specific ethnicity, but because like a big part of music is that cultural thing, and it is supposed to conjure up certain images, right? Because like I hear people say, well, well, it's just the music itself, right? All the stuff like all is just like like what it brings up and everything. Like it shouldn't have to rely on that. And I'm like, I think it kind of does, right? Because I mean, music is such a huge cultural thing, right? And so when I listen to all of these things, like these different types of music from everywhere in the world, right? It just kind of makes me think of the like where I am, where you are, where we all are, like just the world around me, and I just like see the world revolving. It's a very interesting sort of ecstasy I get from listening to this music.
I mean, and that's the most important aspect of why music is awesome because, you know, I have that same feeling just in many other genres. It's not this, but in terms of the cultural aspect, I feel like today, since we're all connected culturally and there's a bunch of different fusions, like there, and then also because what classical music has developed into, and it's, it's in our popular culture and it's in a lot of movies, right? And a lot, like I said, a lot of metal is inspired not only from blues but also from classical music as well. So there's just subgenre after subgenre and fusion after fusion. So at some point the cultural aspect is just lost on me because of the fact that everybody can just make something sound interesting from any part of the world. Um, Also, I don't really find Western like culture that interesting, especially like the colonial period. I think that's the most boring period in fucking history, in my opinion, especially with just like the way I don't know, like I've never been a fan of it.
I think
I don't.
that's just because you're Western. I don't know.
It may be,
I don't
but
know
again,
how
like
else to
it
explain
doesn't.
it.
The
I
cultural
don't know.
aspect isn't lost on me. Like I don't care about the cultural aspect of it. I'm purely going by how it
Well,
sounds. And
okay. So here's how I kind of look at it. Like it honestly makes me listening to this music like it almost like makes me think of like okay, how would like this is how like a Chinese person would say because we as like Westerners think like oh just boring old fashioned Western Christian culture, but then it's like I'm like okay no, how about I look at this through like a Chinese man's eye and like how would he see our like Western Christian culture, right? That's just kind of what it makes me think about when I listen to this music. So I almost see it in like different eyes almost. Because
I
like
mean,
because like I mean like I said, like we don't really think of things as being like ethnically Western, right? But it does make me think. Okay, I'm like, okay, what do ethnically German people have to offer on the world stage, or what do ethnically English people have to offer on the world stage, and stuff like that.
I mean, I think it's just a difference in how we're wired as people because like you're tying a cultural aspect to music. I don't really like. I find culture interesting, and I especially like ancient cultures, and I like knowing where stuff comes from. But when I'm listening to a piece of music, like I don't really give a shit where it's from, and I'm like that, and I'm apathetic to countries and nations, and like I don't give a shit what flag you're under, kind of thing. So like, just difference wise, like I don't really tie culture to my music listening experience, especially with something that's instrumental. Like I mean, if I'm listening to something that like I don't know where it's from culturally and it's just new and interesting, that's more exciting to me because I've never heard it before, as opposed to, oh, I need to like this piece of music because I'm interested in the culture that it comes from. So it's like there's a lot of cultures that interest me, like for example, like I like some Asian music, right? Some like I like, you know, feudal Japan or, old sounding Chinese music, but, you know, some of it just kind of sounds derivative of each other. But the one instrument that I like is the pipa. It's like that 4 string paddle looking guitar, but the people that play it are phenomenal, and you can do a bunch of cool little note bending vibrato stuff with it, and it sounds really Asian when you listen to it. But
Yeah,
I can't
yeah,
listen to all that type of music just because I find it interesting. Like the person playing it has to evoke something in me. I have to be moved by the melody or the tone of it or just the somberness or the feel, right?
sure.
So that's really what's more important to me. So like I don't, that's just the difference in how we view music. I don't really care about the cultural aspect
I got you.
in terms of me liking a physical piece of music. I find it interesting, but it's not a main influencer for me. But that being said, the fact that you do feel that way is why music to me is very important. I What's more interesting is the fact that somebody loves a piece of music and the same with the same songs somebody else could really hate it. Like that's more interesting, is like why we're wired to like and dislike certain things just innately, or like you said, it has a cultural aspect tied to it. Because I get how some people are like, oh, this is just Western, pretentious elite wanking, and I'm not politicizing it. I just don't find it interesting,
It's
just
fun.
as a style.
Yeah, I don't know. It just like I bring up with like I love iconography. I have multiple icons of Mary and Jesus in my room, and not just those icons, but obviously like I love icons of like I already mentioned this, because like when you think of I don't know like India, you already have in your head like you know the Taj Mahal and all this stuff, and then you have like the dam 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 dam, where because like when you think
I do like Indian music too.
Indian music is really good. I know it gets
Because the rhythm and the stoner, like a lot of all the trippy stonery stuff comes from Eastern sounding music that's
yeah,
incorporated into Western stuff, and also the rhythms
definitely
too.
is.
So I definitely connect to that. But going to iconography, Jesus Christ, I can't talk.
Iconography.
I like religious art a lot. I very enjoyed going to the Vatican and seeing all the artwork. I feel like it always invokes something into me, even though not knowing the context of even most of the paintings that I'm looking at. I just love how it looks. And the same thing with the National Gallery of Art in DC. I'm actually going to go there again this weekend because my girlfriend loves art.
Okay.
So seeing
Okay.
all the famous pieces. So I love Renaissance, medieval, and all the type of religious paintings of that era. I think it's technically probably the best work of all time, in my opinion.
Yeah, I
Just in terms of skill and like beauty and emotion that it invokes out of me. So I like the art a lot, just not really the music.
okay. Yeah, like I love Da Vinci. I think his paintings are just like mesmerizing. Like The Last
Yeah.
Supper, it is just like when you look at it, like the way like the shapes form together and everything and how it's like the way it looks, like it's like the room that it takes place in, like the foreground, like it's almost like it's there's this certain thing. I think it's. I mean, I think it's referred to as the sublime. I mean, I typically just use sublime to describe things I think are quite good. But I think like that's what it is. Like sublime is like the concept of just like this like invokes something in you that is just unexplicable. Like it has some sort of like godly fingerprint on there, you know. Um, and so like when I look at that painting and I see all of like the symmetry and like the I don't know, like just the colors and like I said, like just the shape of the room and like the vanishing point and like the colors I think I mentioned, but also I like how it like you can't even tell like where they are. You're like they're it doesn't even like it doesn't look like it's in Jerusalem, right? It doesn't look like it's to but it's like okay, it looks kind of like it's in like Greece or something, but also like Rome, and then it's so interesting.
Yeah, and um I can't remember if I saw that that is that in the Vatican
I don't
or is that in the Louvre?
I don't know where to,
I want to say I know I saw the Sistine Chapel, and I saw a couple of their famous paintings. I think I can't remember which one. There's two or one, there's one or two Da Vinci paintings that are in the National Gallery of Art, but I don't remember which one that it is. But if the Last Supper was in the Vatican, I definitely saw it. It's just been a while since I've been there, and I don't remember. The only thing I remember really was the Sistine Chapel, and also this one painting. And I don't know if I mentioned this on here, but I can't find a picture of this thing anywhere. But it was in one of the main hallways, and it's this massive painting of this baby getting fucking stabbed in the throat. It was metal as fuck, and it looked like it'd be cool for an album cover. And they wouldn't. They were like super Gestapo about letting you take pictures in there because some fucking restoration company owned the rights and all that bullshit. Dude, Rome was a very like fucking Rome was a scammy place. I'm not gonna lie. Like everything was just designed to tourist trap you and all the shit you could like lose your money on. Like it was a weird experience going there. But the Vatican was nice. But I can't find this painting
I'm
ever. But
I'm
it was a big
actually
ass painting of a baby getting fucking stabbed.
in the Vatican.
Yeah, it was cool as shit. It was the largest painting I've ever seen in my life.
Oh man. Yeah.
And I think it was the story of like when they were trying to find Jesus and kill Jesus as a baby, so a bunch of babies are getting killed or something. I don't know.
I am just like also mesmerized like with how Michelangelo painted all that like on the sea. It's
Yeah.
just I'm like, did he just see it all? And he talks about it in his writings, like how he was feeling like the ecstasy of the Holy Spirit, right? And obviously, I mean,
Yeah.
you and I probably have different like concepts of what that might mean, right? But I'm just thinking to myself, like, what was in his head? Like, did he see it all, like, from like a, he just kind of ascended and was like outside of his body and he saw everything and it just came? Like, did he have to do like, it just, especially like you were saying, like a painting that big, like, how do you even attempt to start that? And then, like, it's crazy.
The proportions that you have to know are insane. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
Da Vinci was an inventor, so he had a sort of logistical mind, so he really had a vision for, and you kind of get a glimpse of that when you don't realize how big these fucking things are.
Yeah, no, unless
It's
you've been
insane.
there, which you and I have, like, it's, you don't realize.
So I guess I haven't seen it because apparently it's in Milano, so
What
it's not in the Vatican. The Last Supper, it's not in the
okay.
Vatican.
Is the Last
So
Supper
I
a
guess I
big,
haven't seen that.
is that a big painting?
I don't know.
Okay.
It looks like it would be, but I see an image of people staring at it. Oh fuck, it does look massive.
But, oh, the other thing I wanted to mention about the Last Supper is, like, I love how bare the room is. Like, it's so, like, there's nothing in it, you know? And there's, like,
Yeah, it looks like it was it painted on a wall
I can't,
or was it painted on?
I
It
can't
looks like it's painted on a wall.
tell, yeah.
It looks big though. There's people standing underneath of it, and the people look as tall as the people in the painting.
Whew, man.
Good lord. But yeah, paintings were massive. But I love the attention to detail and the. I was watching my girlfriend's she's really into painting, so we've been watching a bunch of videos on YouTube about people talking about the history and the critiquing, and they're saying a lot of the emotion comes within the poses of the body because sometimes the proportions are a little bit weird. So you see especially if they're contorted in a weird position, you see the tension and this like the strife or just some sort of uncomfortable, feeling of a weird body position, the way, and especially the look on the face, because I feel like most paintings of that era had some weird concerned face or some contemplative, pensive, sad face, something like that.
Right. Um. Oh, like I'm looking at it right now. Like I love how the back is just like the foreground's just like glowing almost. And it's very
Yeah.
obscure. It is just a this is such a good painting. Um. Yeah. No. But Oh, so I'm actually going to Rome in November.
Oh, you really?
Yeah. You can come if you want.
Man, I'm already taking off a bunch of time for where I can't go anywhere anytime soon. But I do want to go back to Italy. I want to see. I want to go to the Louvre. I want to go to all the spots.
Yeah, man. Well,
Um,
no, the Louvre's in is in France.
yeah, I know. I just want to do a whole tour of all the
Oh
cool
yeah,
European stuff. So I don't
yeah.
know if there. I'm sure there's some cool stuff in Spain, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff
Those.
that's spread around Italy. The problem is they're not in one spot. Like they're all in different
Yeah,
cities.
that's the thing, because it's like when you go to Italy, because I'm like, yeah, Rome was awesome, but I'm like, okay, I also want to go to Florence because that's where the Statue of David is, and that awesome church is,
Yeah.
and that's where Assassin's Creed is, and all that cool stuff. But then it's also like, yeah, I want to go to Milan because that's more like the modern like entrepreneur place. But they also have cool old stuff there. And then it's like, okay, I want to go to Sicily, and I want to go to. It's like, well, where do you want to go in Sicily? You know, I want to go to Palermo. You want to go to Messina, or like, do you want to go to the Alpine part of it? Like, do you want to go to Venice? This is a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and I think Florence. There's I can't remember. There's some. It's not the Mona Lisa, but there's some massively famous painting that's in Florence, and I can't remember which one it is. Oh, the Birth of Venus. I think that's. I like that painting a lot.
let
That's in
me
Florence.
let me see.
Botticelli. It's a great painting.
Chili is good. Also, like, just the art is just better because they have Italian names. It just is cool, you know. What is it called? The Birth of Venus.
Yeah,
Let me see this one.
1486. I know you've seen it before.
That one, yeah, I know that one. I'm not actually no, that is pretty cool. Um, I love like the hair and like the shape it makes. It's very aesthetic.
Yeah, and I've always liked the colors from this time. Very light and muted, but also lively and vibrant. It's a great oxymoron.
Damn.
Did you did you want to circle back to the music? We
I
kind of
was
went on
gonna
a
say
big
that, yeah, because
sidestep.
I think we could go back to this, and this could be like
Cool.
my side topic for the episode.
Yeah,
So
this is like I said, the better half is starting to come on.
that's good.
So the next one
Mozart.
was Mozart.
Yes. So we went from Germany to Austria.
So Mozart is what I'm really more familiar with. It's probably the most classical pieces that I've listened to, intentionally or unintentionally.
Right.
um, so the first one was a Symphony Number 25.
Yeah, that's what's annoying about these, because not all of them have. I mean, luckily some of Mozart's pieces have names. But then a lot of them, like a lot of classical music, it's like, oh yeah, you know that song, but it's like, no, I just know some melody from some album that was released by like some orchestra. Like it's so hard to like remember the music by these people because it's
Oh, and sorry, I just want to say this before I forget. That's another thing I don't like about the majority of classical music is that a lot of times people center their songs around an idea and then they use that as their title. And obviously, sometimes it's innocuous or it doesn't mean anything and they're just playing around. But for the most part, it's built up for essential themes. So the fact that these are unnamed, like there's nothing for me to latch onto as a theme. I have to kind of make that up in my head and see like what I could attribute this to, as opposed to if it named like whatever, like Ocean's Breeze or some shit. Like there's something I can try to see, like what about an Ocean's Breeze contemplates to the notes and the tone of the song kind of thing. So that's another aspect that's lost, is that it's just totally out of context in every sense of the word. You kind of, which is also could be cool. Like if there's something that resonates with you, you get to make up your own story for it. So in a way that can be cool, but
I
I feel
was
like it
gonna say
also is
that.
hard to do. It kind of gets lost sometimes too. But that's more just a tidbit thing just for me,
Yeah, like what?
because I
So, I mean, I think like you have to take into account like the way that this music was listened to, right? So it's like obviously like Bach or whoever it was, like like he would. make a bunch of concertos, which were listened to by like royals and stuff like that. And yeah, wait, is that who it is? Nobles, sorry, like nobles and like high class countrymen, right? So and like they would just kind of come and listen to music, and that was like the only kind of time you could listen to music. So I guess like people like at that time like it was just this is just Bach's new piano concerto or something like that. And I guess like when
Right.
he's like this is my first one, this is my second one. I don't know. And like obviously like Mozart, who was actually I mean he's later than Bach, right? Bach is really old. Mozart's a little newer. He actually I mean he has some of his things named, like like you've probably heard Marriage of Figaro or what is it? Like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, um, and whatnot.
Yeah.
You kind of get that here. So like I mean, you have Die Zauberflöte, which in German is the magic flute. I know a lot of people are familiar with that.
Yeah.
But so the first one, I think this song is just, it's such a masterpiece.
Yeah, and it feels from like, and that's the one thing about Mozart. I feel like I've heard the majority of the classical stuff because everyone in here, I was like, I feel like I've heard this before because they all feel familiar.
Oh,
This one, it feels like something I would see in a vintage movie, or I was thinking of like a Tom and Jerry chase scene.
yeah.
And then also like it was
Yeah.
just a pleasant kind of feel, and this is kind of I think I probably liked it more because it was a big change of pace from the other songs before. So like this one was definitely an easier listen, so I could just kind of vibe with it a little bit more. And also kind of sounds like a formal ballroom dance kind of song too. I always kind of like those too.
That's yeah. That's an interesting observation. Like I
Yeah.
love when this music plays, it just like I just start like pretending I'm a conductor, like, and I'm like waving my hand like an idiot. Like it's just like the
Yeah.
like the dun 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 dun, 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 and like I just kind of like do the cascading little like finger thing, just I'm like dun, 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 dun. I think like the last minute of this song with the key change is just mwah. It's so good.
Yeah. And like I said, this one was a lot more pleasant experience.
I was hoping you would
Then
agree. Yeah.
the next one, Die Zauberflöte
Die Zauberflöte.
by Roberta Peters. So this one I know I've heard it before. And I don't know if this will be another surprise to you. I'm also not the biggest fan of opera.
Well, yeah. So
How
opera's probably the most like down the rabbit hole thing you can get in classical music. Like it's like the heaviest stuff, so to speak.
Yeah, I do like some aspects of opera, and I'll kind of touch on that. So, I that little high kind of bird chirp melody that she does, I think is catchy. I love when opera singers, because obviously they're probably the most technically trained singers on the planet. They can do the most difficult runs and
It's not easy.
reach,
Yeah.
yeah, reach notes that most people will never be able to reach in their life. But a lot of it just doesn't sound good. It's just gonna be real.
Yeah.
However, I do love when opera singers go on little runs or they do the scales and you can hear how much control they have in their voice and how much power they have.
Mhm.
So that's cool.
I as-
But I
oh
don't like the belting. The belting is never gonna sound good to me.
right. That's
It
yeah.
just sounds so
I mean,
forced.
I,
Like I
I I
can't.
like it, but I mean, I can, there's nothing I can say that would change your mind. I really love when she's doing that bird chirping melody. That like the
Yeah, that's really
But
cool.
then the strings are also playing like the dun 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 dun, dun in the background. I think that, and then she just kind of sings it back. I think that was just really really cool. Also,
Yeah, and that part in the middle where she does that kind of scale run, it sounds like she's practicing scales, but she's hitting all those notes.
yeah.
That was really cool. That sounded awesome.
Um.
And that's the thing. I have a lot of respect for opera singers, but like it's just I can't get over the belting.
So the belting, because it's like they're singing in German, it sounds really cool.
I can't even pick out anything. It's just like whoa, like it's
Well,
just all it sounds like.
at that point, but like in the opening of the song, you can clearly tell that it's German. But
Yeah,
like, oh, the opening of this song that goes hard. That's like some heavy stuff, like with just those deep string, like just like they just like that, duh, duh, like it's so satisfying.
Yeah, it definitely, like I said, that's the one thing I like about the. It's so dramatic and powerful, and
Yes,
just kind
exactly.
of hits you in the nuts in a
It does.
traditional way, which is interesting.
Right. In the whole
So that aspect I do like. It's just the physical sound. It's just like I can't get into it. The next one, which is Requiem K626, and then I can't remember the
it's
full
just the
one because
Dies
there's a
Irae. That's how I know it.
Zero. Okay.
Which means
Um,
those days, I think.
those days. I like this one. I like the has that dramatic, sinister kind of looming building sound that always plays in any like antagonistic scene in a movie.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, so
I feel like I've heard it.
these three songs were part of, well, have you seen the Amadeus movie?
No, I
All
haven't.
right, yeah, we're gonna have to watch that at some point. But
Is it good? Like, is it really interesting?
yes, no, I'm telling. Okay, Jason, like you've trust my judgment with movies though. Like, really, has there been a movie yet that like you didn't like that I recommended?
No,
Not
I've pretty much enjoyed all of them for the most part.
right. Okay, yeah, because I'm trying to remember. So we got Amores Perros, which you liked, City of God, which you really liked, and then like what else have I recommended to you movie wise? Like, oh, Babel.
And see Nombre, and then we watch Host, not Host,
Yeah, the
the
host.
Korean
Yeah,
creature. Was it the
the
Host?
host. Yeah,
Okay, cool, not Host.
yeah,
Yeah, so I like yeah every movie I've watched with you I've liked.
yeah. Well, so I'll just tell you this right now. So the movie's like 3 hours long, but it feels like
Oh
it's
my god,
no, but it feels like it's 30 minutes.
this is a big ask, but I'll trust your judgment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously we have to literally plan our entire week around it. Probably month, right? But
Probably. Fuck.
right, we'll probably have to do it like on a weekend or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so these um these three songs, Dies Irae, Confutatis, and Lacrimosa, are from Mozart's Requiem Mass, which, I mean, for those who are not familiar with the Requiem Mass, it's the mass that is given. It's like a funeral mass, and it's like honoring the dead and everything. Um,
Okay.
so the Dies Irae is talking about how, like the day of judgment, and that we are all, like we're all gonna die, right? And it's like that's why it kind of has that sinister sound, and it is the Dies Irae, like the it literally became like a concept, like a phenomenon in music itself. Like the da 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 da, that?
Yeah.
Right, like it's the most referenced piece of music in music, right? So it's literally the ostinato for Carol of the Bells, like da 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 da, right? And then it's
Mm.
also like I noticed, like I watched this video that was pointing out it's like in the Home Alone soundtrack when he would see like that creepy old man, they would play that like da 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 da, right? Like, and you could hear it I was showing a bunch of these instances in film and whatnot where it would play those three notes, right? And it was really really powerful. But so that's just what it's referring to is death and all that stuff. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, no, this
Was
song. Wait, what were you gonna ask?
just we don't have to go into, but like, was he deeply? I mean, I assume most people were, but like, I guess he was deeply religious. Like, did he attribute most of his work to that?
Yeah, no, he was very religious. He had a very good relationship with the archbishop. He was like their composer, right? I mean, obviously,
Okay.
they asked him to do all this stuff, and even if so, like, well, actually, no, I won't spoil anything about Amadeus. But and like you can see, like they have it documented, like the letters he would write with his dad when they were catching up with each other. He would tell Mozart like the importance of praying the rosary and everything. So yeah, Mozart was a. I mean, like you said, yeah, most people were back then, but no, yes, Mozart was a very like observantly religious person.
I always wondered because I feel like most. I don't know how many. I'm sure there was some composers that were troubled, right, or they had some sort of dark or shitty lifestyle.
Beethoven.
Um, Beethoven.
Yeah,
That's what it was.
yeah. I mean, he wasn't like he wasn't atheist, but then he wasn't like he was he no, he wasn't atheist, but like he was Christian, but like he wasn't like super. I mean, like he supported like people that went to church and everything, and churchgoers thought that was all great, but that wasn't like the ultimate end for him. I think. Whereas like no,
Yeah.
whereas like Mozart understood like no, that is the ultimate end. Whereas like Mozart was like a little no, sorry, Beethoven was a little more like secular. Like this is just kind of just music, because that was in like the romantic period where it wasn't a religious movement. It was more of just kind of like it's kind of the origins of all of like the spiritual but not religious kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, when Beethoven does it, it's quite good and impressive. But when the cringe stuff we see now is done, it's not not to that level. But
Well, that's done under a different guise. I don't
right,
think.
I was
And
yeah. I don't know if that's a fair comparison, but that's just kind of the origins of all that. Like the romantic period was just like weren't times didn't they like weren't the old days just so much better and more rich. That
it's the Led Zeppelin cover band days.
right.
Um,
um
yeah, I mean, I actually I don't know anything about really any composer at all. I don't know shit. I've never been interested to learn about their lives. I've never been interested to look into what they're about. So I don't know anything really.
You don't know anything,
Um,
man. I thought.
no, not at all. I don't know shit about any classical composer ever.
Okay. Well, so I mean, it is kind of fictionalized, but and then it's got some controversy for that. But I mean, Amadeus is about Mozart. Um, but what's interesting is that it's told through the eyes of like another composer.
Okay.
Yeah, which I well I'll
Um,
well I guess we'll talk about it whenever we watch it. Yeah, but
the next song, which is what's the second song?
Confutatis.
That one. So I love the lo-fi feel and also the tone of the song.
The
I
ostinato.
always kind of like lo-fi. Yeah, the
Yeah.
lo-fi stuff is really nice. I think it's kind of overplayed these days, but just the overall sentiment of it, I enjoy. I like lo-fi things. Um, the only thing that's a little bit weird is that the mood is kind of inconsistent with what it's trying to jeez man to portray, and I think that kind of further exemplifies my point when you're talk because I didn't know it had a funeral mass kind of connotation to it, so I feel like the mood is a little weird. Maybe I guess it makes sense in terms of like celebrating life more than focusing on death. So the first one was like the ominous realization. The second one is the acceptance, and then the
Lacrimosa is the final, which means tear in Latin.
yeah. So the song before I get to that one, the song it kind of sounds like the last one, but a little bit more upbeat. But Lacrimosa, this final song, I know I've heard this one before. I love the feel and the pacing of it. It's something. This is something I can zone out and meditate to.
Yeah,
So for that
definitely.
reason, I love it.
I
So I love the pensive mood that it puts me in.
Yes, exactly. The pensive mood. That's a very good way to describe it. I love those just brutal string uh like those brutal strings in the beginning. Like it just kind of pierces like your soul almost like just damn, like it's almost like the music is just crying, but not in like the cheesy sense. It's just like shit, man.
Yeah, so I guess it's kind of I don't know if this is I mean obviously to me this is what it sounds like. It's a three-part thing, so I guess it's like
Well, there's
obviously there's more
more.
stages of
No, no, there
as
there's more to the mass. I just picked the three ones that.
oh,
I mean,
so are they supposed to represent the stages of grief, or is that just what most people can attribute them to? Because it kind of like now that I know that it kind of what it feels like to me.
that's kind of it. Well, so I mean, obviously, it just kind of through divine providence that that these three were in chronological order. I mean, obviously, there's other stuff in between them in the actual mass, but um,
Okay.
yeah. But so the
Yeah, because it feels like it's congruent with the feelings. Obviously, it's a sped up version of it than what you go through in real life. But like I said, the ominous realization, the just the celebration and the seriousness of it, but trying to be more upbeat in a dark time. And the last one of you just having to cope and find a way to contemplate and move on, kind of thing.
yeah, and I
So I've yeah.
the Lacrimosa, I like it. It ends in a very pleasant, like hopeful major key, which is really it's really nice.
Yeah.
But so this mass was actually never finished. The Lacrimosa, I believe that was the last thing Mozart ever wrote. I
Interesting.
know it's
What year was this?
Mozart.
Do you know?
He was like he was doing his thing. I think like in the time of like the like when America was like first becoming a country. Like
Okay.
in like the 1780s, I think. Let me see. He didn't even live to be like 40. He died and that's actually what the movie talks about. It's very controversial and it's a very controversial and debated topic in history of how he actually died and who might have like, aided in it. It's a very interesting story.
Ooh, conspiracy.
Oh, it's definitely some conspiracy stuff. I mean, it doesn't matter because the people are all dead, but and there's like nothing to be done to get out of it. um, yeah.
No one cares.
Right. So Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart is how he's typically known as, but his full name is Johannes Christosimus Wolfgangus Theophilus Mozart. Nice.
Jump off a fucking bridge. Who the hell named him that?
Okay, he was part of like a royal family, so uh so he was okay, he was
I'm simulating myself jacking off.
right. So he was to Mozart's name. Um so he was born in Salzburg, Austria in 1756 and he died in 1791
Okay.
in Vienna. Um
Vienna, Northern Virginia.
right, yeah. He went all
Such
the
a
way
shame he
to
died.
Was Vienna, Virginia even a city at that time? I want to know.
I don't know. Virginia's pretty fucking old, but probably not.
I mean, hey, America was a country at that point, or at least for like 2 years. I think. Like
Yeah,
when
but
did it?
most of
Like
most of Northern Virginia was farmland, especially before the Civil War.
I mean, even like towards DC. Yeah, that is true. That is true.
Yeah.
Vienna probably did not exist. Um,
Manassas was farmland fucking during the Civil War.
right. But Mozart. I go back between him and Beethoven. Unfortunately, I couldn't really get any Beethoven on this playlist, but I go back and forth between them of who's my favorite. I kind of prefer Mozart just because. I don't know. Mozart is I think is just more prolific than Beethoven is, but
In what way?
like he has more good music in my opinion.
Oh, okay. More hits.
Right, he has more hits and he has a more like he has like a huge right because like these guys like so Bach um is very like versatile. So he has like his harpsichord music, but he also has his piano stuff. He has his organ stuff, which I obviously. Oh man, I wish I could have got that on here somehow. You know, like Toccata and Fugue in D.
I don't know.
That's like the da da da.
Oh, the Dracula theme song. Yeah, I do like that.
Right, but it's just when you actually have you listened to the whole song?
Uh, Not attentively, no.
Okay, I'm going to send that to you, and you're gonna tell me what you think. It doesn't even need to be on the podcast, but that song is literally like a drug trip.
I'm sure I'll like it.
It's
I like
just
the couple seconds that I hear of it all the time.
right, but that's like the most forgettable part of like the all the time. Like, it's like the song is like this incredible odyssey. Like the way the organ like just kind of just takes you.
Yeah.
Which yeah, I assumed you like the organ better than the harpsichord. Um,
I actually do like the organ. I
yeah,
love
there's
every church service I've been to, I like the organ a lot.
right. But so Bach kind of created that sort of like gothic, like German kind of atmosphere.
That's crazy because like the stuff with this harpsichord music is a complete 180 from all of that.
Right, but I'm showing that he's very versatile, right? Um,
Yeah,
and
that's
he
cool.
also has his like I think he might have done some mandolin stuff, but I'm not entirely sure. But either way, and then so Mozart has his orchestral music, right? But then he also has his concertos and he has his piano pieces. I'm sure if I played you some of them, you'd be like, oh yeah, I know that. And he has like his sacred music for the mat and everything. So he's very versatile, right? And so Beethoven is the same way, where he has his symphonies, right? His grand masterpieces for orchestras, right? With all the instruments, and he has this very nice and pleasant piano pieces, right? Like For Elise, I'm sure you know that one,
Yeah, of course.
right? But then have you heard of Moonlight Sonata?
Yeah, I've heard that one
Yeah,
too.
that was yeah, like Beethoven is the most I think entertaining um composer. Like his music, I think is the most like it's the most palatable to people who listen to modern music.
It's also what most people learn when they play piano too. A lot of Beethoven and Mozart.
That yeah, that is a good observation. But also like I think the keys that Beethoven plays in and all that stuff, like it sounds not as like old. I mean, I'm obviously like I'm trying to think of this like how another person would see this because obviously the oldness doesn't bother me, right? But like it's I feel like it doesn't feel as like outdated as some people would think that maybe Bach would feel like the stuff that was on this playlist. Like I feel like Beethoven is just like a lot of people would be like, yeah, that's cool, that's awesome, that I love that sound. It puts me in that like real like pensive mood. It's relaxing. It's just like therapeutic. Like For Elise, I was listening to this version of it, and then someone said in the comments, like, even if this is overplayed, there's still something like hauntingly beautiful about this piece. I'm like,
I love Overly sounds.
yeah,
I think that it's like obviously it's probably the most famous classical song ever. Um, but I think it's the fact that like I don't hear it all the time, so like it doesn't play on the radio all the time. So like I haven't heard it enough to hate it. So every time I hear it, I always think it's pleasant, especially when I hear this is back when we did lessons. So I would hear kids practice this song and like not kids, but like the teenagers that were trying to audition to get into a performing arts school. So they'd always play classical pieces, and I liked when they played the more emotive pieces to really show their skill as a just like a not a musician, just as an artist. Because I think this is a great piece to show your skill as an artist more than a musician. Because this is all about the feel of the notes and the way you play it
yeah,
more than
yeah,
playing it correctly.
yeah. Because you
So
see, like some people they play For Elise kind of slow, and then some people play it fast and like furious.
yeah, I like the people that play it
Yeah,
slower.
like some people like just like the da 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 da, and like they kind of just kind of build up da 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 da.
Yeah,
That is a cool thing you pointed out.
and now that you know that, that is my entire point of why the piano is a 10 times better instrument than the harpsichord. You can't do something like that on a harpsichord as well as you can on a piano. I'm sure somebody could do it that's really talented, but it's a lot more difficult to do something like that. Like that's the dynamic is the you can really mess with the notes.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it's just different to me at least. um,
But yeah, I do like that aspect a lot in Furley's. It's like the same thing with Tadiga. You can really play with a lot of the songs and the feel and the speed of it
it's
really changes the mood.
yeah, Targa's good. Um,
Yeah, so that's why I enjoy stuff like that a lot.
right. Um, do you like the Fifth Symphony by Beethoven?
Is that in here?
That no, it's not in here, but that's just like the da 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 da.
Um, I don't hate it. I think that's I don't know. It doesn't really speak to me or anything or poke out.
So I think it's this doesn't happen very often, but I think that this is an example of a song that I think when transcribed to piano, it is so I mean not so much better because I mean the orchestrated version is just it's so good, but I think like it's even better when it's just transcribed to piano. And there's this incredible version of it that I want to send you. And like you just hear like
Yeah,
it's insane. This guy's like just doing he's playing literally everything the orchestra's playing all with like just two hands. It's crazy.
yeah. I can't remember if I've heard it on piano. I know I've heard it as an orchestra. I think I even saw. I'm blank. I think I've been to like a orchestra show at the Kennedy Center when I was younger. I believe I saw a couple things at the Kennedy Center, but I was bored as fuck, so I don't really.
I saw I saw the Ninth Symphony. That was awesome.
The Ninth Symphony.
That's the one where you know that one, like the
I don't know any symphony.
That's the Ode to Joy, like the da na 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 na
Oh,
na.
I don't like that one at all. I guess because I
No,
had to play it on trombone and I fucking hated
no, that was probably terrible. But if you actually listen to it, the
it.
orchestrated version, or if you just listen to it on piano, it's so pretty.
Okay.
And also, like when you listen to the
Oh
German
fuck.
lyrics, it's so cool.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, no, and like the German lyrics, just not just that it's German, which makes it sound cool, but like just the actual things it's talking about. It's cool.
Yeah, I'll give it a go.
Um,
The next song, which is fuck, what
Handel.
song are we on?
This is Handel.
Yeah.
So, interpreted by this Hungarian name. I don't know how to pronounce that guy's name. So this is George Friedrich Handel or Handel. He was a German guy who eventually moved to England and just kind of lived the rest of his life in England. And he became one. Yeah, he was the court composer for the like British upper class.
So this one, I kind of feel like it was the same as the first four. It was kind of hard to pick out a melody that really stuck out, and I think it's because again they were played at the same type of that constant rhythm, just the eighth notes the entire time. So I think that's a little bit. That one kind of got lost on me a little bit.
That's melodic. Yeah, that's good
Yeah,
thing
and
to point
then
out.
the
But
next song, which is what song is that?
the second one I think was my favorite one, and I like how it's only like a minute long, which I think is cool.
Yeah,
Because
I feel like this one was also just a slight variation of the previous one. Like the temp, it's literally the same tempo. I literally was taking, after I listened to them, I went back to the preview on the Apple Music playlist, and I just kept playing back and forth the beginning, and like it literally sounded like it was the same song at a slightly different rhythm. And this, like I said, it was the same tempo.
I really do like the rhythm
Um,
in these songs. Though, like I feel like I could dance to it.
yeah, they're definitely danceable, but as their variation between most of them, that's more of the debate. Um,
Yeah, you can make the case. You can make the case.
So I mean, these two didn't really get anything out of because like it just remind me of the first four. The next song, blum blum blum, that's sonatas for violin.
It's more Handel.
Yeah,
Wait, what was even the third one I showed you? Oh yeah, that was like it was much lighter. But wait, Doug, do you even remember what it was?
no, I do. I hold on. I think I got these out of. Are those 18 songs on this list?
There should be, yeah. I added the other one. I don't remember if you listened to that.
Which one?
I sent it to in the chat. It was another one from that same album from Handel. I don't know if you. It doesn't matter because it's not on here.
Yeah, I only listened to the one that was on here. I lost the other one,
Yeah,
and
it's
you
fine.
couldn't remember what the name of it was.
Well, yeah, because I looked in like the. I'm skimming through the whole album, and I'm okay. There's no way I'm gonna find this, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. Yeah. So I only listened to what was on the list, but my brain just got these out of order. All right. So the next one. I like the waving. I love the violin melody. But again, it's the harpsichord in the background just haunting me in my dreams. Although I do like the troll notes on this one were cool. I liked how they were placed, and I liked it wasn't as bad because, like I said, the violin was the main melody, so that's really more what I could focus on. The harpsichord, I feel like the ADHD brother trying to get attention, so I could focus more on the violin on this song.
okay.
Um, the next song, I thought the
Mm.
the 16th notes coming in and out, that was pretty fucking sick. And this one is probably the most metal sounding song on the playlist, especially with like the build ups that it does.
We're talking about like the Vivaldi stuff, right?
Yes, Vivaldi is definitely metal.
Yes, this is Motetto RV626. Or yeah, okay. They're trying to figure out the names of these songs, whatever. But it's just some aria from one of Vivaldi's operas. Yes, and Vivaldi is quite fantastic. Um, he's the guy who wrote like the Four Seasons.
Yeah, I like Vivaldi. Well, I take that back. I like Vivaldi in the context of Vivaldi. I don't like how he influenced a generation of just wanking guitar players. I want to make that distinction very clear.
Right. I think you made it clear. But yeah, but this
Cool.
first one, like the first Vivaldi song I put, that I like the 130 mark when like the orchestra just comes right back in with those like dun 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 dun. Dun. Like, yeah, it sounds just like it's metal.
Yeah. And I like the build-ups that it does, and this is why I'm saying classical music really is missing a pure rhythm instrument because you can you really can you miss a whole aspect of the music if you don't have a good rhythm driving it. But the extra rhythm that this does on its own is phenomenal in its own right. So it's not like it needs it, but I just think it could take it to that extra step if they have some other rhythm instrument that backs it up and gives it a slightly different feel. But I actually really like the opera vocal runs that were in this song. That was really nice. So this is a great song.
That really was, I thought. Um, and what did you think of the next two songs, which were not in the same kind of uh metal-esque style?
All right, you ready for it?
Yes, I'm gonna guess you didn't like it, based on what you
No,
what.
this is my favorite track on the album.
Damn. Okay, man. I didn't know what was gonna happen because I
So this one was what was concerto per I can't remember the
violoncello. Yeah.
yeah, this was definitely my favorite song on the track. I love the sound of a cello. I really actually really want to learn how to play cello.
And
Um,
the mandolin in the background, like the going on like up the scales back and forth.
yeah,
It's
and
the
that was the other thing I
accompaniment.
was going to
Yeah, it was
mention.
really cool. Yeah.
I love how that sounds. So the tone of this mandolin in the context of like picking the notes in like a very fluttery, pretty, slow kind of way to back up the somber melody of the cello. It's just so smooth and rich, and the whole song is just beautiful. I like it a lot,
Smooth and
and
rich. That's a very good way to describe it. Yeah.
I love the sound of a cello. And I love how the specific person that played this cello, the emotive slides they would do in between the notes. Oh, it's just fucking. So this is definitely my favorite one on the whole. Like I would, this is the one I would listen to over and over again. I like it. Just it's a sweet little sad song. I like it. Um,
And then
but again, and this is the great example of what I think is lost on a lot of classical music is they don't take the time to focus on how it sounds. They take the time to construct, the notes and the technicality of it, but they don't like. I don't know. I just feel, and
oh,
this
I
is not
mean,
just because it's a slow song versus a fast song. You definitely can do it with fast songs. But I just like when people take the time, and I don't know. I don't know what the original song sounds like or
all right. And
different
there's other
players how they
recordings.
play it.
Yeah, there's like a billion recordings of these songs.
Right, but this specific one I like a lot.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. I try to find the best ones, but that is a
Yeah,
cool thing to think about. Is like what actually did this sound like? The only way we know is that
yeah.
if the like written musical language is what we understand it to be, right? And there's actually like, there.
Well, you lose. I mean, here's the dirty secret. Even like with tabs and all that shit or whatever music notes, like people make mistakes.
Right,
Like
right.
it's so, and also like you lose the feel. Like you can play like maybe they didn't play completely in time. Maybe they accented things differently, or they forgot to accent certain things. So, you never know. So, but that is the one interesting aspect about music that you have no idea what the original sound is.
Right.
But this one, like I said, favorite song on the track. Um, the next song, I kind of like it and I kind of don't. The thing I don't like is I think the tone, and this is the mandolin again, right?
Yes.
It's just again, it's too pingy and the sound of it's kind of choked. Like you don't really hear the note, you just kind of hear like the high pitched like ping of the note. And so that's the part I don't like. But the part that I love about it was the last part of the song where it sounds kind of like Hawaiian or like a sea shanty. It's really kind of pulsy and wavy. It's like you just feel like you can relax to it. So
Yeah.
I like the sound and the pacing of it at the end.
Okay. Yeah, no,
So
I agree with you with these two songs. Yeah, it's just I think those are like the most relaxing tracks on the song. And sorry, on the playlist.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, well, I mean, you pretty much just said everything I wanted to say, so I really don't really have much any more to say.
Well, overall, I think like I've listened to countless genres of music, and I think for some reason classical is just the one I just can't get into. But only for those reasons. So the songs, like I said, they have that slower, more emotive feel, or they have a really catchy and or sweet melody. Those are the ones I'm always gonna gravitate towards, just in any genre of music. But I'm never gonna get into the fast scales and arpeggios classical. It's just not gonna happen. I don't even like that in metal, so
You never,
it's not gonna happen.
you never know. I don't know.
And it also depends on how it's played. Like there might be a guy that fucking rips on the harpsichord, and also I think I've heard it in person because if you go to Colonial Williamsburg on certain times, they have a legitimate guy. He like plays the harpsichord. You can see other people making furniture. So I've heard it in real life, and like you catch a little bit more of the low end dynamic in person than you do in recordings. So that element kind of is lost in recording, but again, it still is not that dynamic of an instrument. It just isn't.
I guess not. But yeah, I don't know. I just never really
They
thought
do
of that.
sound a lot cooler in person, I will say though.
Okay, that makes me more interested to go and hear one.
Yeah, if you like the history, you definitely got to go to Colonial Williamsburg. You probably would love it down there.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. I think it's cool how it has like the top and the bottom because they're shorter. They're not as long as a piano, so they
Yeah.
can like lay out all the keys. I think that's cool because I wonder. I'm like, how would that be? Because like, what could I do with that? I guess
Yeah, I don't play piano, so I don't know what you could do with it, but it is interesting because, yeah, it is a totally different style, and you can hit more range of notes theoretically
yeah.
easier.
But that also wants me. That makes me want to try an organ because like I know like it would. I mean, obviously, it wouldn't be the same as the piano or the harpsichord, but I'm sure like I mean the notes like they look the same, right? It's just I know the bass like you have to learn like the deep notes. You have to play with like those like pedals on the bottom. Um, but like
Yeah, the sustain.
no, it's not a sustain. They're just really really deep notes. Like this like these.
Well, they open more airflow, or I don't know how pipes work or flutes work. I feel like
So like
you
they're
either constrict the airflow for a higher pitch or you open it up for a lower pitch. I don't know.
I well all I know is like the really big really wide round pipes are like the really deep bassy notes, and that's what you hit with those pedals at the bottom. Like
Oh, they're actual notes.
they're actual notes. They're like those
Okay,
really deep bassy notes that accompany the songs. But the so like there's no sustain on an organ. You just have to hold out the note.
interesting.
Right, so like that so that would be different than playing the piano. But I just want to
So
see
you literally just fill the low end resonance underneath of what you're playing
yeah, by just
with your feet. That's cool.
yeah, no, but that's interesting to me because I'm like huh, like how would I and then like you can do kind of melodies with the pedal too. It's interesting.
Huh.
It's like you
Yeah,
have your
organ's always
own
cool. I
yeah.
like organ.
Yeah, like you have your own bass below you. It's really cool.
That opens up a whole new world playing with your feet and with your hands.
Yeah, the
Huh.
only problem with organ, is like the actual trying to learn it and practice it because I'm like, okay, I can't just ask after church like, "Hey, can I play the organ?" Like it doesn't work like that, right? Um
Well, I mean, there's no one that'll teach you to do it or find someone that like. There's nothing that
no,
you
I,
can apprentice.
well no, I'm sure I could, but it's like that's just kind of more inconvenient, right? Whereas like guitar, it's like I can just do it in my room. Whereas like you can't learn organ in your room, right? Um like you
Yeah, you can emulate it probably. I assume it's not
yes.
that much different than playing a piano. You just kind of have to learn the nuances, honestly, of the bass pipes, really.
Sure, but I guess like you need to have a playing organ in like a church or like a big open space with awesome acoustics.
Right,
Yeah. Church has got good acoustics, man.
dude. My parents go to this little brick church thing, and like the interior is fucking godly. hear a penny drop with no echo. It's crazy
Oh, man.
how like it feels like it's a recording room in there. It's so small. And well, I think the last time I went was a Christmas mass, and the piano player was playing really soft, and then the pastor was playing an acoustic guitar, and it was a nice guitar, and just it resonated just so sweet throughout the whole church. So I do like church acoustics a lot. And this is kind of a funny side note. Sometimes the people that run sound for churches are very inept, and that's because a lot of them they're just volunteers. Like they don't actually have a skill set in doing this. They kind of got lumped into doing the board at church, right? And my friend installs AV professionally, and he was like, the amount of times he gets asked for people to get the reverb taken out, like the room reverb, like cathedral reverb from a church, like a stone church. It's like impossible
Right.
unless you do thousands and thousands of dollars of acoustic treatings. It's like, no, we're not going to take the fucking room reverb out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the acoustics of churches. They're probably the best. Or small theaters.
Yeah. Or I mean, obviously just like music studios. But that's like an obvious one. Um,
Well, it kind of emulates the music studio the way like small churches run with all the carpet and the drapery and all that, as opposed to larger cathedral where it's all stone and everything bounces off one another and echoes.
right. Or what was it like the? Was I gonna say like typically like um really big hallways have good acoustics.
Yep, hall reverb. It's another great one.
Hallway reverb and like just big rooms, like a big convention center or something like that.
hmm
Yeah.
The one that's the worst are stadiums. Stadiums have the worst sound.
Oh, definitely.
Same thing with outside amphitheaters. Fucking blow ass.
Yeah, I've had to do that before.
Fucking awful. I hate going to fucking stadium or amphitheater shows. I really do.
We performed.
Especially for metal, because metal's hard to get a good sound live because there's so many frequencies that fucking fight each other. So like you really have to EQ and know what you're doing, and it's just the cursed. You go to a larger venue, all you hear is drums and bass, and that's it.
Yeah, we had to
But
perform Shakespeare. It wasn't like in an amphitheater, but it was in that kind of open area in like grass. Like it was like in the middle of like the woods almost.
what the fuck?
It was cool because
Ugh.
the teacher said he wanted to have like a more kind of like English kind of Shire esque environment.
I guess it kind of does put you in the mood,
It
like what
did.
Midsummer Night's Dream.
It did.
That would be a
Yeah.
good one to see in the forest.
We did. Yeah, that would be good. We did a Much to Do About Nothing. I don't know if you know that one.
No, I don't think I've read that one.
It's one of his comedies. I'm much more of a fan of Shakespeare's tragedies. Um,
Like Hamlet.
no, not I'm not a big fan of Hamlet. Um,
Macbeth.
Macbeth, yes, or Julius Caesar, I love.
I forgot that he wrote that.
Yeah, no, and he has
Yeah.
Romeo and Juliet, which I think is really good too. King Lear too.
Where is
I've
that?
not read that, but that I know I hear the synopsis of it. I want to read it. It's just about like this king who has like three sons, and then it's like they fight over who gets to take over the kingdom. I think after the king dies. Um,
Did he do a reprise of a Greek tragedy?
mm,
Am I remembering that right?
possibly. I know he did he did something of the sort, but I can't remember what specifically it was, nor what.
Was it Oedipus or the so something something like that,
Right, like I
the Odyssey or
right,
something?
like I want to say he did, but no, I wouldn't be able to tell off the top of my head. Um,
Huh.
I know. Oh,
Shakespeare. And it,
Tempest. He did that.
I don't know why this made me think of it, dude. Because are you into like older poetry? Did we talk about Edgar Allan Poe on here?
We did, yeah, and I love Edgar Allan
Okay,
Poe. Yeah.
so that was with you. Okay, I couldn't remember if I was having that discussion with you or someone else, but um,
Hey, well, we don't really talk to anybody else other than us, so.
I know. I'm getting to the point where it's like I don't even know who I have conversations with
Right.
anymore.
It's just
Every
it's just the podcast, bro.
That's the one thing you're gonna learn when you are when you're heavily dating someone for like 3 years. Like you start saying the same shit over and over again. And they're like, stop saying the same fucking thing over and over again. You're like, I can't remember if I said it already.
Shit, man.
Telling the same stories, saying the same jokes. That
Well,
comes back to get you.
I'm on that shit for 2 weeks now, so
Oh, that's right. How's that been going?
it's going pretty well.
Good, man. I'm happy you're out of your incel phase. You're branching out in the world.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it's going well. We like each other a lot. We really like each other actually.
Is this marriage material?
Yes, but I can't.
Nice.
I'd rather not talk about this on the podcast.
No, obviously not. I was just,
Right, but
you know.
I will tell you that yes, it is.
Good, man. Don't
Like,
fuck it up. We're going to cry for a long time, and you'll have to do some, spiritual growth, some work on yourself. You might go to the gym a little bit harder,
yeah.
so just save
And then
yourself
I
the
got
hardship.
right,
And
and
just
then
kill yourself.
well, okay, I can't do that. But then it's like yeah, and then I gotta listen to Tempest by Tool on repeat, and then I gotta
You're gonna fucking the night you guys break up, you're gonna like go to your room and listen to a song and start crying. You have to
Yep.
tell me what song that is, and then we can review it.
Dude, I'm gonna listen to the. You know what actually is a really good like motivation slash like just epic like breakup song.
Which one?
Is like this the soundtrack to Batman Begins is
Oh my
it
god!
goes really
You're
hard.
gonna listen to the Batman Begins soundtrack when you fucking get broken up with.
No, not necessarily
That's
not necessarily broken up, but just like when I'm in the
oh
need
fuck.
when I'm in need of like the motivation kind of thing. Not like necessarily because I mean obviously I don't really have any experience with breaks up with breakups, sorry, but that's what I was referring to. Just like the motivation, like just epicness, like rise from the fall, and all that stuff.
Are you gonna listen to the Joker soundtrack when you get cheated on?
I haven't even like seen the movie yet, so
I don't know if you'll like that movie. I was conflicted. I
uh,
kind of liked it, but also kind of didn't.
I guess I should watch it. But like just based on like from well, not even necessarily from what I've heard, because I didn't really listen to much of like I mean I heard like mixed things about it, but also it's like I don't know, like just based on like the way I see, like the way the movie looks and just like this the way the style seems to me at least from the surface level is I'm just like like I don't know, like there's just certain things where it's like yeah I just don't really feel like that's something I need to spend my money and time on.
I will say it is very different to any other, Batman. I don't even think Batman is even in that movie, or he is at like the end. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've seen it, but like it's a very different style than any other DC movie that I've seen. It's a totally different. It's not even like a superhero movie. It's more
Right,
of a
I heard it's like
it's more of a depressing movie than it is a comic book movie.
yeah I heard it actually like it just it like I've heard it's really good at not relying on like just it being the Joker and like it's just like it's a comic book movie, right? Like it's like just an
The
actual
whole
like
yeah.
psychological thriller on its own, and it's really I mean that's what I hear.
The whole point of the movie is the whole theme of it is a guy that gets bullied for having a disorder, then he slowly loses his mind until he becomes the Joker. But the whole movie is him just getting shit on in tragedy after tragedy until he just finally snaps. That's kind of the premise of the movie. So like I like it for that reason, but I also think that it's very heavy-winded throughout the entire thing. So it's like if you can't already guess what's going to happen, then then you really might enjoy it more.
I've
But it's pretty
heard
self-explanatory.
yeah I've heard people say that. I hear Joaquin is fantastic. I've never actually like I don't even because like when I hear when I think like when someone says Heath Ledger Joker, I have the character in my mind. I know what he sounds like. I know his mannerisms, right? But like I'm thinking like I haven't even like really seen a clip of him where like I hear his voice and how he is as the Joker. So I don't even know because I hear
Yeah, so he did phenomenal. And it's a totally different character because and this is because the whole fucking movie is about his life. So obviously you're gonna have a more humanizing look at the Joker. He's not a over exaggerative character like like Heath Ledger's Joker. he was the character. Like you couldn't really see into his fucking mind. He was just unpredictable. And then obviously Jared Leto's hipster fucking Joker was just ridiculous
That
for no
was
reason.
so stupid.
So fat. That was just
I
fucking
haven't
dumb.
even seen the movie, but like I've seen clips of it. I'm like, okay, that's bad. Like that is
It's
it.
awful.
It looks stupid. His voice is stupid. Like that's not the Joker. Like,
Yeah, and I will admit the second movie is actually pretty good. It's a lot more hilarious, but the first movie's fucking awful.
yeah, I have not seen
But
either.
in this movie, he's like a normal guy. He loves his mom. He has a laughing disorder. Like that's how he laughs a lot. He's just
Oh, okay.
whenever he's nervous. So like he got bullied and ostracized for that. He was a failing comedian, stuff like that. So like it really was. He was supposed to be like a normal guy trying to live a normal life, and he was what the fuck? He was a clown for something. He was part of some company that hired clowns to do stuff like parties and entertainment and all
Yeah.
that shit. So like it was a very real movie. It wasn't like an over dramatic comic book dark movie like DC's known for. So
Right.
that in that regard it was different to anything they've ever done. But again, it might be kind of heavy winded for a lot of people. But I kind of enjoyed it.
Right, and then later in the movie, he becomes a reborn Christian and tries to convert Gotham City to Christianity.
In a way. He is, except he was God.
Oh,
So it was
I
his
see.
religion.
I see. Well, yeah, because isn't
Yeah,
it
he
just like
wanted.
anarchy and stuff like that?
Yeah, he wanted just the destruction of everything because the whole world, and that's why the local news outlets and really national news outlets were like, "Oh, this is the incel movie. This is the movie that's going to cause so many mass shootings because it's about the lone wolf that's ostracized by society and then
Like,
he has to
no,
take
those
revenge by
people
killing
can
everyone."
just stop talking, please. I'm like,
Yeah,
you are literally like, this movie's gonna incite violence, and it's like literally the only
yeah.
stuff that would come is literally just because you're saying that. Like, if you don't talk about that, then like no one would even like care. It's just a movie, like.
And that's kind of the point, and like that's what the whole movie's about, taking revenge on the people that wronged him. And it's a movie the Columbine shooters probably would have liked and related to, especially back in that day. So
Right.
that's why.
Right. Yeah, what Joaquin is very good. I like him. Have you seen the movie Her?
No,
It-
but is that the one where he's transgender or some shit?
No, it's like it's the one where like it's set kind of in like the near future, which I think at literally this point in this year we're probably in that year that the movie was set in. Um, where it's like 2000 like 20 something. Remember like back when it was like 20 like 12 instead of 2013 it's like 2020. It's like some like
Yeah,
apocalyptic like year.
yeah, the dystopian times of 8 years later.
Or it's like, oh, everything is just stupid now. It's not that everything
Yeah.
is dystopian, it's just stupid, right? But so it's like so Joaquin Phoenix's character works for like some company, I don't know what it is, but like it's some like Google kind of corporation like that, but so they have this new like AI software and he falls in love with the AI. But it's not done in like the cringe way and cliche way, right? It's actually like really kind of touching in a way.
It's also kind of incelly, but
It is, yeah, because Joaquin is kind of incel, but
I guess he just likes those characters.
yeah, it's just I mean because when you look at all the characters he plays, that's what he is. I mean, I don't know if he's not like that in real life, but
There was a moment when this movie, back when it first came out, I think it was on Jimmy Kimmel. I think it was Jimmy Kimmel because Jimmy Kimmel's a master of like having no work done. He just gets everything handed to him and he still fumbles the fucking ball. So there was a clip that Joaquin Phoenix did not know was released, and it was a scene about he was in some very taxing scene and he was getting frustrated and he was like shouting at the director or shouting at whoever's trying to coach him through it. And it was clearly an embarrassing moment, and it's one that he really didn't want out to the public. But somehow Kimmel got this footage and showed it to him, kind of like in a gotcha moment. Kind of backhanded he is. He's like, he's not funny, so he has to get situationally funny things to put people on the spot to kind of take away how much talent he doesn't have. Kind of, he's like that kind of guy. He tries to get It's like Ozzy Osbourne. He tries to get better people in the room to make himself better, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
Jimmy Kimmel's not.
So
He's not funny.
he's a fucking hack. Anyway, he pulls up this clip, and then Joaquin Phoenix is sitting there like, oh, sometimes when you make movies, tensions flare. Like, I'm kind of embarrassed about this. Like, he had to explain why he lost his cool on a fucking movie set. It was pretty funny.
Nice. I remember when
Um,
Bill Burr was on Jimmy Kimmel and he just totally shit on him. He was like, "I like how you
yeah,
try to act like you care, Jimmy," and like you just saw like Jimmy Kimmel like just trying to like maintain his sanity.
yeah.
Like, not do you?
Out of all of them, he's definitely the fucking worst.
Yeah, no, because I think Jimmy Fallon can be funny. Um,
He's definitely more likable, and obviously he
yeah,
can think of more good stuff on the spot. I think Conan is probably the best out of all of them because I think Conan is more naturally funny. I don't think he's. I personally don't think he's funny, but he is definitely the most entertaining out of the three of them. And
I
then
think
Jared Leto, I'm not Jared Leto. Jay Leno is just Jay Leno. He's just
I
whatever.
I think Jimmy Fallon's the best one. Like he's the he does he can do some funny stuff like physically like when he dances and stuff like that.
I think they're both entertaining. I think Conan gets. I think Conan's a better interviewer, which is weird to say because he doesn't really ask any posing, intricate, thought provoking questions. But he gets his like the way that he is gets actors to say more provoking stuff than I think
I
Fallon
guess,
does.
yeah. Um,
Because like I every like I don't watch a ton of them because I don't really give a shit. But some like if I watch a movie or a show that's really popular and I like and I watch with the actor, I like how people like same thing with musicians how they made their music. I like actors and they're talking about how they came up with a scene that they did or a character or whatever. And I feel like I've watched a lot of those on Conan,
okay.
like little clips here and there. I don't watch fucking primetime TV. I've just seen like the YouTube
Yeah,
clips.
yeah, the YouTube clips can be nice sometimes because they're just short and it's like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
So.
no, the worst is James Corden. Sorry.
Oh god. Well, yeah, that's not even a comparison.
Dude, didn't he get
He
like
gave the
some
world carpool karaoke. I want to fucking murder that man just for that. Not the fact that he's just like a entitled brat that people in the industry just hate. Like I don't think there's anyone that likes James Corden. Everyone fucking hates him.
like yeah, because didn't he get some like charges or something for like
Yeah, he got assault charges. He's rude to everyone. He's fucking fake as shit. Like he's the stereotypical Hollywood fucking brat. Like
okay.
all about status and title. And he even admitted it. Like he knows he has a problem with it. He just won't ever fucking fix it.
Really?
Yeah, he's self-aware, but probably only self-aware so people can be like, "Oh, good for him."
Yeah.
But God, he's a fucking cock. Like no, I can't find a single person that likes James Corden. No, like everyone he's worked with says he fucking hates him, and all the staff that's worked underneath of him just say all the dumb shit that he would do, and obviously most of it is hearsay or whatever. But still, like no one likes the guy, so there has to be some validity.
I know we kind of disagree. I don't like what's his name? Stephen Colbert. He's terrible.
I don't really like Stephen Colbert either.
But I remember said like that like he's still kind of playing like a character and he's like decent at that. But even so.
He's good at playing a character. I just don't like the character.
Well, right, but also like he has a really punchable face.
He does.
Yeah.
I also the thing is though, like it's very difficult to play a satirical character, and I think he used to do it a lot better. The more political bias he got, the less funny and the more forced he became. But like he wasn't always like that.
He's
Obviously he was more left leaning, but it just over the years,
well
that was his
they all
crutch.
are. But like I think Jimmy Fallon like I don't hear the politics come out as much, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas like Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel are just clearly like they're just outlets for like the politicians to say stuff.
I think the best example, and I don't know because it's been a while since I've listened to him, but the one of the more, I think he's more of a moderate, but I guess he considers himself more left leaning, but I think he's more moderate as Jon Stewart.
I was gonna
Because
say I don't really know anything about it. I've never seen. I know who he is. I've never really watched any of his stuff.
the most famous one is Jon Stewart. He's talking in front of Congress, and he was trying to he was trying to get a bill passed about to raise more funds for the survivors of 9/11 that had cancer and a bunch of other health problems due to being first responders or whatever, and Congress just kept not giving money towards it at all. And he made a very passionate speech about how angry he was about it, so that was a pretty good watch.
Okay.
So he definitely seems to be more involved, not just like a. It doesn't seem like he was a guy paid by the news media to spread bullshit. Like he truly was passionate and truly meant what he said
Okay.
whenever he talked about stuff. And obviously he was kind of entertaining, but he was the more serious out of all of them, and I think he made better points. That's just, I feel like he was more moderate than most people are today.
Okay. Well, I guess I mean, yeah, like I
But
said,
yeah,
I've never seen his stuff, but I mean, I hope that's true.
yeah,
Um,
John Stewart was cool.
Trevor Noah is pretty bad.
Trevor Noah was disappointing because his I liked his comedy specials because he was a guy like if you can make comedy that's clean, funny, that's pretty impressive. You don't have to do any sort of shock value. Like you generally can
Right.
make up
He
funny
is good
stuff,
at
but
that, but when he,
as soon as he got on the Daily Show, then no, he just went downhill.
oh
But
yeah.
his old comedy specials were great.
Um, yeah. Who else? Like the what's? Oh, Bill Maher. He's really good. I like him. He's
I
funny.
never watched too much of
He's
him.
funny. Like, um, he's. I mean, obviously people are accusing him now because like I mean, he's one of those people like Joe Rogan, where it's like they're traditionally and still are so like pretty left wing, right? But it's like just because of like certain things they said that aren't left
They're
wing,
labeled as right
right?
wing.
And he's literally
Yeah.
like Bill Maher. He's like he literally had this guy on his show like welcome to the Republican Party, and he's like, I don't want to join the Republican Party, like stop. Like he's like, I'm a liberal. He just thinks that like the political left in like 2023 has just gotten like out of hand, which is
I
like, I
mean,
mean,
even
well that's just
people that have more like left leaning ideologies, even like, because there's a difference between people that are left leaning and the people that are legitimate liberals,
yeah,
or if they
exactly.
truly like the Democratic Party. Like, I feel like most people don't even like either of them. They have their own ideas of how the government should be run. But like,
Well, right.
I
So
don't
the
know that many people. Like, I don't know liberals that love Hillary Clinton or that love Biden. They all hate them.
well,
They just hate Trump more.
right, exactly. Well, because it's like there's the
Like,
political ideology and then there's the party, right? So it's like it can
yeah.
get confusing because it's like he thinks like the actual Democratic Party is just insane at this point.
They are like you. Like I said, you don't even have to be right wing to realize that.
Exactly, and that's his whole point. And he's like, guys, like, I'm. I guess they're like, you've become more conservative. And he's like, no, I'm just. I think that the left is just crazier. He's like, he says this himself. He's like, I've stayed the same. I just think that the Democratic Party has just gotten more insane. That's it.
Yeah, because like the people that I grew up with, I never grew up with like the Hillary for feminism. I grew up with like the free healthcare Bernie Bros and shit, or like like those kind of left wing people. I've never met like you know those people that like stand fucking RBG and like the Supreme Court and all that shit. They're like, oh, trust our democratic process, or we have to stop Trump. Like I don't know any of those type of left wing people. Like I said, they're all like weed smoking socialist Bernie guys or Bernie girls.
But yeah, it's funny to know like the spectrum, right? Of like
Yes, it is a spectrum.
of like the right.
Fucking autistic spectrum.
Exactly. Of like the political views and everything, right? Because
Yeah.
there's like so many liberal stereotypes and there's so many like conservative stereotypes too, and like caricatures, which I don't think are always true, but um
I actually I know a lot of it's weird, man. I fucking know a lot of people on both sides. Like my parents are more like how do I
maybe
describe it?
say like
I feel like these days I
they're kind of right wing, but like not
my
exactly.
parents are, but like they back in the day they were more like the traditional like fiscal conservatism, blah 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 blah. But now they're just like paranoid rednecks.
Okay.
Because like I think after Trump, and then like my mom never voted for anybody before Trump, and she's like in her 60s. Like that was the first president she ever voted for in her life. So after he got in office, she started getting into it and started watching, the guys with herbal supplements, and snapbacks, yelling and yeah, from a YouTube channel,
Right.
all that shit.
Right.
So it just got to the point where it's weird. Then I know like a bunch of old school rednecks be like, man, the world's changing too quick. I don't know about all this kind of people. And then I have like the young, like suit wearing conservative people were like, we have to go back to traditional values. So like, it's just a fucking stupid. I've talked about it in nauseum, but just God.
Also, I like Bill Maher because, like, I mean, he has like a lot of the viewpoints I do, right? Because he's just like, this is just like common sense. Because he's like the whole like stuff that the left push, like the whole concept of like pregnant men. He's like, are you serious? Like, this isn't me being like a Nazi saying that that's like not something that should be taught in science class because that doesn't exist, right? Or like,
So that's probably his claim to right wingism. That's like I said.
there, no, but
On
he
the-
has a bunch of stuff. Like he's talked about that. Like I mean, obviously he doesn't think that like little kids should be able to transition and stuff like that. He doesn't think like he doesn't like all the woke stuff with like the cancel culture. Like he believes in free speech and he's very adamant about that. Like he even like a bunch of like right wing people were mad about Whoopi Goldberg about this stuff she said about the Holocaust. He's like, bro, like we can say whatever we want. Like it's just she just said something. Like you know.
I forgot about that. She got in that little controversy a
I
couple
I
months
did
ago.
kind of get mad because what she said was really fucking stupid. Um,
What did she? I can't. What did she say? I can't remember.
she said that the Holocaust was not about race, and I'm like, yeah, I know. I think that's literally what it was about.
Did she say what it was about?
uh,
Like what she thought it was about?
well, trying to remember because she said it's like the Holocaust wasn't about race. You couldn't tell who was Jewish. Well, I mean, in a lot of situations, you kind of really fucking could tell who was Jewish. Um,
Yeah, they made a whole chart about their noses.
yeah, exactly. Well, okay, granted, I know. So because like the Ashkenazi
I'm
Jews,
not serious, by the way.
no, but that's true. They had those charts, but like,
No, I know. I just
well, also, but it's interesting though, because like in some situations that's true because like the Ashkenazi Jews are like a mix of like the Eastern Jewish from long ago, like they're like that mixed with like German. Obviously, like some Jews look more Middle Eastern, right, and then some Jews look more German, right? So, like Jeff,
I get it, man. I got a big nose. I would have been killed back then.
right,
I know what it's like.
right, but then like but like there's some people when you look at them and you're like, okay, that's I, Hitler. Like I can see who he's. I'm not like I understand what like his point is, but like I can see who it is that he is identifying, right, when he's talking about the Jewish race. But then there's some Jews where it's like, wait, you're the people Hitler killed, aren't y'all like the same people?
Yeah, some people it's hard to tell.
Right, but
But
like
what? So what was the main point? Like, so if it wasn't about race, what was it
I'm
about?
pretty sure like just like religion or something. Um,
Okay.
because like she was
I mean, whatever.
no, but people just got mad because like a lot of Jews because like she was basically just saying, oh, Jews are just like white people, and like a lot of Jews have a problem with people saying that.
I think it's just. I mean, obviously, like they didn't just kill Jewish people. It was handicapped people, gypsies, other ethnic minorities. Like it
Catholics too.
and
It was just people.
really.
Yeah, no, and Slavs as well. I mean, they're
Oh yeah, they hate the fucking Slavs.
right. It was just
I do too, so it's okay.
right because like Hitler talks about the races and everything in Mein Kampf and how like there's like the superior like Germanic European, or I don't know if it was Germanic specifically, but he's like there's like the superior European race and then there's like everything else and he has like the whole like tiers, right? And then the Jew is like the bottom tier. Um
I mean, so like I get her point. I mean, objectively, I think it's very ignorant to say that the Holocaust was not about race. It's like the same thing when people say the Civil War wasn't about slavery. Like it totally fucking was. Obviously, there were millions of other
there's other
factors that
things, but it's
contributed
like
to it.
yeah, it
Yeah,
was. I mean,
yeah.
yeah, but
So like I guess her point was like everybody focuses on the race aspect, but there's probably other indications that were present during the Holocaust that are ignored and are pretty important
well,
too.
right, and a
So
lot
if she
of
said it that way, that would have made more sense.
well,
But I
right,
don't give a
but
fuck. But yeah, that is pretty dumb.
I mean, right. I mean, she might have talked about that, and that's what a lot of people say, and then, like a lot of people, like like Jews, might get upset. I mean, I have to, but I'm like, okay, I'll listen to what. A lot of people are like, okay, like obviously all of these ideologies are based in some sort of truth, right? That some people observe in reality, right? So it's like, why would Hitler want to kill all the Jews? So like when you look at what was going on in the Germany at the time, right? Like most of like all of like the banks and all the whatever stuff was owned by Jews. Now the question is like whether or not that's right or wrong, that's whatever. But that's just what Hitler saw, and he's like, "This is wrong. We want everything to be German. I don't want all of like the composers in the court to be Jewish. I want them to be German. I want all like the teachers. I don't want any like most of the university professors were all Jewish. He's like, no, I want them to be German. Um, and
I think the biggest point was the blaming them for the loss for Germany's loss in World War One. I think that was the major.
a
I think
bunch of. I mean,
that's
that's
probably
one.
the most of it.
I mean, I don't know if I'd say that's the most, but that's a big thing, right?
Yeah, because that caused Germany's major fucking depression. Like that's what unified Germany was. They needed a guy to bring everyone together and find someone to blame for that. That destroyed the entire country.
Right. Well, exactly. And then,
All the other race stuff kind of came secondary. You kind of keep steamrolling, you keep picking things until it eventually becomes the Holocaust. But I think if they didn't lose World War One,
well, right.
I
Well,
would
so
make the argument if Germany did not lose World War One, they probably would have not have had the Holocaust.
yeah, no, that's
I
that's
feel
that's a pretty
like that would
fair
probably
assessment. Yeah. But
yeah, I
like,
think that's the main reason that all. Obviously, Hitler probably had other reasons because Jews have been a scapegoat for thousands of years, the punching bags of the fucking world, right? So I'm sure before that, Hitler's probably had some kind of thoughts, and then after losing the war, and that's who he decided to blame, and that's how he got other people to kind of bandwagon on him with. Like that's probably the main reason.
one right, and it's like, okay, yeah, like there is some truth about like what certain Jews did at the time. But the problem, as we all know, is like, okay, now we're gonna kill everyone who's related to you. It's like, okay, now that's obviously where it goes too far. But yeah, but
Yeah, I mean, obviously he didn't stop at Jews, but still.
no, but I mean, yeah, I mean, he killed a bunch of them. But
No, I know,
yeah, no, I'm not. Yeah, I know
but
you
yeah,
don't. I know you know. um, that was just kind of
I know.
yeah, but yeah, but no, but Bill Maher, like, he's funny. He said like the taboo stuff about like slavery and how he's like, guys, like literally the whole world had slavery before like America and like Britain stopped, like they literally those were the first countries to stop it. And like how he's like anyone like in the time, like it didn't matter what race you were, like had slaves just if you could, because that's just what people did back then. Because like a lot of people have this like concept that like slavery is like when we talk about it, it's like exclusive to the U.S. or like the Western world. Sometimes people apply to it. It's like no, it was literally everywhere.
What I think is the most ignorant, 'cause it's not even about slavery because there's different types of slavery and
Sure,
a lot of like
exactly.
there is aspects of American slavery that is unique to it, but I
Sure,
think the most
sure.
like, and I've listened to this aspect a lot, and especially like if you don't understand ancient history, like there's no white people in Africa, in the Middle East, in that part for a lot thousands of years before white people supposedly came out of the Caucasus Mountains, whatever the fuck, right? Like there have been genocides, just total wipeout of cultures and tribes for thousands of years on top of different
Oh
types of
yeah,
slavery. So
yeah.
it's not even, it's so ignorant to say that white people created slavery and genocide.
No, he's
Uh,
exactly. And
It's so ignorant.
also, it's like
And people get mad when you say it's human nature, but no, it literally is human nature. Greed, power, and psychopathy. That's what we're good at
right,
for thousands of years
right.
before fucking, before Britain was even a concept,
Exactly. Or like like
or Europe in general.
right, or like white people invented like colonialism, and it's like, well, I mean, no, because it's like, well, look at like just the Islamic world, look at China and like all the colonies they had, and like Vietnam. It's like people have like different humans have done awful things to different humans like since the beginning of time. Like we're all culpable of that.
Dude, you look at every empire. Would they just magically get along? No, they fucking took that shit and they expanded their empire. Yeah, some people traded, but that doesn't mean they didn't fucking wipe out
Right.
just total cities to get that. Like, that's any
Right, or like
and
or
nobody's
like
fucking
the
free. No one's innocent. Every single fucking empire on planet Earth has conquered land. How do you conquer land? You fucking kill, burn, loot, and rape,
right. Is that like, I mean, it's like the whole like,
and
I
rebuild.
mean, I've had arguments with people but like about like Christian empires where it's like convert or die, and it's like, okay, literally any time a human culture takes over another human culture, it
Assimilate
right, you assimilate
or die.
right, because it makes sense that it's like we rule now. You have to do what we do. I mean, obviously, whether or not that's not right or wrong is whatever. But it's like also it's like okay, you can't just say one person is completely good and innocent and pure and beautiful, whereas like these other people are just these ugly, fat, gross, like evil colonizer people. Like that's false, right? And Bill Myers like yeah, like this whole leftist view of the world is just like not true.
Yeah. And honestly, like they do have a fair point. Like throughout recent history, like colonialism, slavery, all that shit, like the people in power today probably wish that we could go back to that time because they're just evil motherfuckers in power. So
Oh yeah.
I don't have a problem when people criticize governments or people criticize the validity of history or the whitewashing of history or pointing out like the inaccuracies of the stuff that we learned. Like that's all fine, but the fact that they're making it like an ideology where it's like it's inherent whiteness that causes you to be genocidal is insane.
Yeah, it's like when
Like
it
it's
becomes
such a like
dogma. Like that's when I'm like
it's
you can think like hmm I don't really like I'm kind of questionable about like Western civilization's like attitude towards this or that or like colonization or religion or whatever. But it's like where it's like I don't know if I like this or that. That's kind of bad. As opposed to like no, it's literally inherently evil and everything, and like you have this whole set of beliefs. It's like you have to believe, it's like it's literally like a mythos, and it's like that's like a new religion. It's like the whole like anti like Western civilization white Christian people thing. It's really bad.
like I said, there's plenty of things to criticize everyone for, right? So it's like I don't have a problem with criticism. I don't have a problem with positive change. So it's like
Neither do
getting
I.
out
Yeah.
the people. The problem is there's never going to be a replacement of someone better. Doesn't matter what fucking color or race they are. Everybody's going to be greedy and fucking do the same shit covertly or overtly. Like it's never going to change. Like humans, we've been on this planet for what, less than 200,000 years, 60,000 years as cavemen, whatever the fuck.
Uh-huh.
It has mildly gotten better, right? So like we
It's
can look
been
at
pretty
things
much
from a
better.
modern context and have a modern concept of like this is wrong, this is good. Some of the lines are blurred, but like there is still murder, there is still genocide. They just don't fucking talk about it because it's geopolitical. So there's alliances that can't be broken, so they can't fucking report on it. Mainly China and what they're doing to Muslims, mainly Russia and what they're
Oh, yeah.
doing to gay people. Like this shit never fucking stops. And I'm tired of people pretending like protesting or electing people that are not white is going to fix everything. It's like
Yeah,
you look at like politicians like AOC, she's a fucking grifter and she
she sucks, dude.
she's in Congress. Everything that she, got every point that she got people to vote for her for, she went against. She's a fucking like political moderate. She didn't give a fuck about whatever. She just wanted to have a seat in Congress and just told people what they wanted to hear. It's the same thing. Every single like it's just bureaucracy. That's just how it goes. No matter what color you are, you're fucking greedy and you want power and you'll fucking rape and kill whoever you will to get there. Like
Yeah.
I hate this idea. I really do. And it
Like
sucks because like once there are no white people left, in 500 years, God forbid we're still on this planet, everybody's going to be pretty much the same color, like light brown, dark olive, whatever the fuck, right? Bigger heads, bigger eyes. Like there's not going to be that many separation of races of people a couple hundred years down the line. And guess what? There's still going to be murders. We're not going to be more enlightened ever.
yeah, that's like the 1984 kind of view of the world where it's like there's no longer any like differentiation of like anything. Like men and women wear the same clothes. They have like the same hairstyles. We all like kind of just all look the same. Like there's no different races. Like we're all just like just these like just blobs. you know?
Yeah, and they're still going to kill each other. We're going to find something. The golden sneeches, star badges, stripes, no stripes, doesn't fucking matter. You're going to fucking divide and conquer. Tribalism's never going away. It's, you know, people's race goes away, people's religions go away. Money's going to be the next thing. There's always going to be economic classes, poor, rich, like ruling class, working class. That's never going to stop, ever.
Yeah. Um, my brother actually he visited me this weekend. He brought this up. We were talking about like the boomers. He thinks like the biggest mistake that the boomers made, and we could go off all like a billion years of like what the boomers did wrong, right? But he thinks like the biggest like difference between like the boomers and like the silent generation and like the greatest generation or whatever they were called is that like the previous two that I just mentioned, like the ladders, they had a tragic view of humanity. obviously, like, you can save all of this stuff and like find, like, you can still find peace and tranquility and prosperity through like Christianity and whatnot in traditional religion, right? Or like Judeo Christianity, I guess, in the general sense, like Judeo Christian values. But at the end of the day, like, there's just certain things that, like, as a species, like human beings just can't do, just because either like just it's too risky, like just the ramifications, like, giving like these like certain people power, like it's just like, yeah, it's just too much, it's not worth it, like we can just work with what we have. Whereas like the boomers are like, no, we need to like stop at any cost to achieve like X thing that we want, right? So, or that we believe to be benefiting society, right? And it's like everyone is like in the boomer mindset, like everyone is like because community just kind of just disiluded and it just got destroyed. Like it just, the boomers just became so individualistic about everything. So it's like it was like everyone is almost like the, like you're the character of your own story, right? And it's like you want to be a hero, you don't want to be a villain. You want to have a comedy, not a tragedy. So you're just gonna, like, you're the hero, you're gonna win. You think that whatever you're doing, whatever your opinions are as a boomer, like you just think whatever you're doing is like of just acknowledging what is good or bad is just like you're the hero and like you win essentially.
Yeah, and I was talking to you about last time George Carlin's take on the boomers, right?
Yeah, I think you mentioned like a little thing he said. I don't remember about like
Yeah, so the same
everything.
thing that most young people say is that they're entitled. They acted the same way we did, and they forgot about that, and then they became so. He basically his whole point was like they were entitled. They had all the drugs and all the rock and roll, and then when they got older and they got fatter, they got more self righteous. Like he just went. These boomers went from do your own thing to just say no. You know, it's in their slogans: work hard, play hard, life sucks, get over it. So yeah, they're the boomers are a very entitled fucking they really are stupid. Like I talk to people that are much older than me. They're really fucking retarded. Like not because they're old and they don't understand the way the world works. Just they're just genuinely dumb.
Yeah,
Like for real.
my brother brought up to me that like really the only people who use iPads at this point are like boomers.
Like how hard is it to fucking like I constantly try to learn new things every day. These people don't want to fucking do anything. They're so lazy. They're fucking entitled. They're whiny. Like they're
Well,
just fucking awful.
funny enough you say that. I watched.
And Gen Z people are like that too, but I feel like Gen Z and boomers are the same type of shit. And I'm technically Gen Z,
It's
but
just
I was,
two. No, Gen Z and boomers are just two sides of the same coin.
yeah,
But yeah. So like, I watched this video documenting the boomers and what they did wrong and like how it happened and like what was like the cause and effect and everything. So like, not only like, so a big part of it comes from like their. I forgot the name of this guy. He's really good. Um, I'll put the name of him in the description, because I can just find the video. He says like, so they were the first generation to have television like regularly available, right? And it just that just kind of started like the process of like just the dumbing down of our intellectual capacity as a society, right? Because the
especially watching the commercials they did and all that fucking bullshit.
right, and also
God,
right, because he's saying like just because like, well, it's like the TV destroyed community, and it also like it just made us dumber, right? Because like the more TV you watch is not this equivalent to like the more reading you do, right? So he said like there was no real like boomer like intellectual, that we could all like think of like, yeah, that was like a great mind or that was like a great man. Like the boomers didn't. Right, no, but like when you think of like great men and like great things that great men did, like George Washington or like, Frederick Douglass and stuff like that, that actually were like chads and did great things. Like there was no one like that in the boomers because like everything was already done for them. So they're like, yeah, like we can have whatever we want because just, that's how they were raised and stuff like that. And also it's like because they like were right in the aftermath of World War II. and like the whole like like sentiment against like the Nazis and everything. Where it's like, I mean, yeah, obviously the Nazis are terrible, but it's like as the video explains how like they view the Nazis as like the ultimate evil, right? In like the black and white sense, but like they don't actually like they just say that without actually taking a look at what the Nazis have to say, right? And they don't like they don't look at them as people, and they're very judgmental, right? And the boomers are just so judgmental about everything,
Yeah.
like all of like the stupid sex, drugs, rock and roll, like all those people. Like I mean, I no, but what's so annoying to me is all that stuff is like still around, like all the punk culture. I'm like, can this just stop? Like, but like what's just so funny is like they're convinced, like the whole, but like because that's the thing, like with the whole boomer stuff and everything they did, it's like with the other generations, like it kind of just was like the same, and all those same problems keep persisting, right? Because everything they criticize that we do, that's what they did. It's like, yeah, I know, but it's like we can do this. Like all the stuff that I believe, generally speaking, I feel like is like so anti-boomer and so anti against like the whole boomer view of reality. And I just feel like the opposite of what I believe in a sense, is the boomer stuff, like all of the stupid punk stuff and everything, because all of them think that they're going against the boomers, but it's like, no, in reality, you're literally following in their footsteps.
Yeah, I mean, it's just being subjugated to whatever bullshit rhetoric that you want to believe in. And I think the difference, because I think if you have a mindset to be a little bit open minded and at least learning something, so like I could say something that, is dumb or is can like any, like I could have a belief that could not be true, or it could be, a form of rhetoric in itself, right? I don't hold on to it. Like I tell myself like I want to learn something new, and like if I'm wrong about something, like then I don't care about it. I want to like it's fine to fix it. Like I don't feel like I'm a constant, like I'm never gonna change. Like I feel like that's what like just deteriorates your brain. That's why everyone has fucking Alzheimer's, because you don't actively do any critical thinking. Or it's why like people are like, oh, play Sudoku, do some word puzzles, play chess, do something to actively work your fucking
I'm
brain,
okay with
right?
that if you're like 70 to like 90, right? But if you're like only 50 and doing that, like, bro,
Yeah, like my whole point is like the boomers grew up in such a propagated time, or not propagated, like they just
artificial,
an era of, yeah, it was
artificial. I
just
think
they were just fed bullshit. Like they were fed misinformation. Doctors were recommending cigarettes. Like it was just fucking, it was just not a good time to be smart. And the people that were like few and far between, or they're too smart and they just want to fuck over the general public. Like they found their way in government or corporations. They could use their intelligence to, you know, rule over the retarded boomers of the day. But nowadays, like it's not hard to learn new shit and open your mind. It's just not. Like we grew up in the digital age. We had access to so much information, but we also have access to a lot of dangerous shit, and life moves quicker than life did back then, right? So like there's more stuff that we have to worry, especially with inflation. Like life is not as good as it was in terms of money, right? So like everybody's more stressed out. So it's like we have more problems we have to navigate than they ever did. And I feel like people are, as much as people are struggling, like the few that can really persist through, like there's a reason why they do that, because you can be a product of whatever time you're from, but you also can, like at some point there is no excuse, because you're just stubborn, and your willingness to reject new things is always going to hunt you down.
yeah.
And it's the same thing with like my favorite. You ever see that video of like all of these fucking old boomers are just like slowly tapping on the slot machine buttons. There's like a fucking 10 of them in a line. They're just like, they look like zombies.
The
Fucking
the boomers.
yeah, they fucking love slot machines. It's like, and that's the thing. It's like that is like your money's going down the fucking drain. It's like the boomers that play the lottery. It's like the boomers that think fast food is good. Like it's just it's just so ignorant. Like they just live in ignorance.
Boomers are just boomers, man. Like even like just the name, like it's just a meme. Like it sounds like something that you make fun, like just the boomers,
Yeah. And obviously there's a bunch of unenlightened, ignorant people at any age group. That's more of you being an American than you being old. Really.
Yeah.
But it's just God, man. And I remember when I worked in restaurants, the worst, the fucking worst. And I'm not alone. Like you go on Reddit and you look at forums, like it's pretty much in agreement. The worst crowd to take care of was like the after church service brunch boomer crowd. Oh my god, they were the fucking worst.
Yeah, boomers. It's like
Just the fucking, they're the absolute worst. I don't know if you, I mean, McDonald's doesn't really count, but like if you are like a server, like you actually wait on tables
boomers are all
and
like in the drive-through. The boomers
oh
are all.
my
It's like,
god.
bro, God, the boomers. They're just like, oh, I hate the boomers, dude. And like I know I can't hate anybody, right? But it's like if you're gonna hate anybody, you're gonna hate the boomers.
Dude, they go out of their way to be a pain in the ass.
Right. And it's like
It is incredible. Like at some point I'm like I really have to wonder like do you do this on purpose cuz you're miserable or are you really just that dumb?
right.
I think they're just miserable
I mean I hope
because
yeah.
they have no life's purpose. Like they thought their life's purpose was to work and consume. That's it.
Exactly. No, but it's like that's the same thing that they just brought down to our generation. Where a lot of people think that's just
Yeah.
like what you got to do, or it's that, or it's just sex, drugs, and rocks and roll. Like there's no actual like great ideal to aspire to, you know. And also, I cannot stand what the boomers did to like the clothing and everything, and how we don't wear nice clothes anymore. And they started all this stupid bullshit with just the t-shirt and I'm like, can we just
The life is good shirts and the Crocs
all
and the
that's
bucket
just
hats.
anything like just it's just the whole just decline of dress and how everything is just not as like formal and everything. And I'm just like I obviously don't have to wear like a three-piece suit and a trench coat like I do, but it's like even like even if you weren't rich, like if you're just some working class dude, you'd still have like a suit you wear to church, or like you'd still like even like your Saturday clothes or whatever, just you'd wear like a vest or something nice. Like I mean, I still try to do that because I'm just trying to be not like as boomer as I possibly can. Well, also I have the benefit of actually liking those clothes, and I think I look good in them. But I'm just like, yeah, I'm just like, screw you, boomers. I'm not wearing t-shirt and shorts anymore. Like, you guys started this. I'm done.
That's such a boomer take.
But you see what I'm saying, though.
In its own right. No, I know. And like I don't really give a shit about formal dress. Like I don't think you can be dressed nice on every single occasion. Like but they are fucking slobs.
But not
Like
not
they're
nice. Like I guess just in a way that just res-
put some effort
yeah,
in.
like effort, and it's like
A
respect.
little bit
It's
of
like
effort.
respectful, right? Like because people just like don't have like if you go to a certain place, like especially like a church, assuming it's like a nice church, right? Like even like you're gonna want to wear like something that isn't a t-shirt and shorts, right? Like if I was just like
Yeah.
touring in Europe and I'm not even observantly religious like I am, like let's say, and I'm going into the Vatican or like the St. Peter's Cathedral, like I'm gonna want to wear something like that's not t-shirt and shorts.
Yeah. And that's and it's actually kind of funny you bring up the Vatican because that's like how you could tell who's the most American because they have the fucking like they're all fat as shit. They got the goddamn sunglasses that have the cord around their neck. They're always taking pictures and they're fucking talking even though you weren't supposed to. Like you could spot them a million miles away.
The,
It was really funny.
the baseball caps, dude.
Yeah, the fucking
I cannot wear them.
the fanny packs, the Nike, the New Balance shoes, the fucking socks up to their ankles or up to their knees.
Right, that's why I dress the way I do, because I'm like I the last thing I want is people to think I'm some like boomer American. Like, no, I don't want that.
Yeah,
Like, I'd rather just.
I'm not really one.
I would love.
I'm not really one to talk though. I'm always in a band and t-shirt or band t-shirt and jeans though, whatever,
Right.
or cargo shorts. But still, I do dress nice when I have to. Like if I'm going to court or a wedding or a funeral, blah 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 blah,
Wait.
or a church service.
You know, like the most meme like boomer item of clothing. It's like the like
Is it the wine cup holder necklace?
yeah, it's like the Nike Air Monarch thing.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah,
like
or the New Balance long clippers.
yeah, like that is the most boomer fashion. Like, but
Or they tuck their shirt into their pajama pants.
yes, with
They walk around like Humpty Dumpty.
I understand, like at this point, like if you're old, if you're that old and you live in this country, like you probably just don't care anymore,
Who gives a fuck? Yeah,
right? I
really.
guess I can commend them for that, but it's just I just cannot stand like just their absolute arrogance and like just to completely like just reject like everything that came before them. It's just, uh, they ruined us, man.
Yeah,
They failed. Like they failed.
yeah.
They literally failed at
And the
life.
people.
Like the boomers failed at life.
It's always funny because I mean, obviously it's a generalization, right? But it's a very, it's it's an archetype for a reason, right? Stereotype for a reason.
The
It's just there's
boomer.
so many people that act like that,
Dude, that's gonna be like
and
a like an
obviously,
archetype in like philosophy that we study like 2,000 years from now. It's like the boomer. I exemplify the boomer. Like no, who wants to exemplify the boomers? No one does. Like the boomers don't even want to exemplify the boomers.
you know what the worst thing, and this is because this kind of pertains to my industry. I think the worst thing that the boomers peddled was this made in America bullshit.
No, I never really
I
thought about that.
cannot stand. It's so it's like obviously there's the bigger criticism is using slave labor in Asian countries to make shitty products, right? So their counter to that was to make shitty products in America because you can buy a cheap ass thing that'll break on you, but oh, it's made in America, so it's better than that shitty thing that's made in China. It's just I hate this sentiment that people just automatically assume that because it's made here, it's better,
Well, I guess we're
and
not.
they've definitely fucking peddled that
Well,
bullshit.
because you get
I'm sick of it. Every time I see Made in America, I just don't want to buy it.
well, because you get
I don't give
you
a
get the whole like feel good inside because you're not supporting the sweatshop kind of thing. So
yeah, but you're still
no,
buying a
no,
shitty product
I
that's overpriced.
I
Like
know, I
it's
know.
not a better
No,
solution.
I agree with you. I'm just pointing out like what the boomers are thinking.
No, they don't give a fuck. They don't care. They only care because it took jobs from Americans overseas. That's why they care. They
Boomers.
don't care because they care about slave labor. They don't give a fuck as long as they can get their goddamn like you said, they can play on their fucking iPad. They don't give a shit.
God, like the boomers, man. They boomed it up. Like they just like I know like this just wouldn't make any sense, but like I want to wear like one of those like old school like Western Europe kind of style clothing. You know what I'm talking about? Like with those like kind of like they're almost those like bib sort of things and like the collar. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Vaguely.
Like hold on. Like look up. Hold on.
You just want to have an excuse to dress in weird shit, Will.
Well, I mean, weird shit. Okay, I guess so.
You just want to be a contrarian. That's why you like it, because no one else is
Well,
wearing it.
no, but I just think it looks cool. Like all the clothes, like remember I was telling you about the clothing in Poldark?
Yes.
Yes, look up that right now. Like just look up, type in Poldark clothing, and just see the stuff that comes up. It's awesome. Like this, the coats and the colors and the tricorn hats. They're really cool. Even like the peasant stuff looks cool. Like I would totally wear that. It's drip, dude.
Poldark
Yeah,
costumes.
like
Let's see, it's on Etsy, so you can overpay for your costumes. They just look
once.
like Ellis Island fucking.
Like no, type well. You typed in costume. Let me see if that's any different than what I looked up.
I just typed in Poldark. I didn't type in costume. That's just what it came up on Etsy because it looked interesting.
Oh, I see.
I'm not seeing anything congruent, but they just look like Ellis Island fucking bandana on head dresses kind of shit.
Oh, I see. Um,
You ever see that thing? It's like the Polish color palette, and it's just different shades of gray.
oh really? No, I
The building, the sky, the grass,
no, no,
all gray.
no, I haven't seen that.
Oh fuck.
I want to wear a tricorn hat. Like, please give it to me right now. And give me one of those cool. What do you call those like things that they put in their collar? It's so cool looking.
Tricorn hat.
Yeah, like
Like a fucking like you're a like you're Paul Revere.
yes, just to fucking
What the fuck,
just to fucking see what
Willis?
I would look like.
See, you could go like I'm telling you, you would love Colonial Williamsburg. You can go down there, you can get your fucking, your quail feathered pen, your tri-point hat, you can get that fucking hoop with a stick you can roll down the street. You can bang on your little drummer boy drum. You'll have a fucking gay old time down there.
Not even like necessarily the tricorn hat, just like the actual suits that they wear and like the coats. I just really think they look cool.
You can be Jack Sparrow. You want Jack Sparrow's hat?
No.
About the musketeer hat, he's got, one of the brims pulled up to the side with the feather.
No, I don't.
It's not the full tortellini.
No, I don't want that. I'm generally speaking not very good at wearing hats.
These kind of like I don't think I've ever seen someone unironically wear this hat. Like, what the fuck?
I'm just gonna pull up wearing the tricorn hat.
I'm gonna punch you in the face. Like, hey, you fucking dick.
Right. I'll send you a
Colonel Jackass.
I'll send you a picture of like the clothing I'm referring to. Like I think it just looks excellent. But like it's like that kind of noble clothing where you have like those knee socks or it's yeah, like you have almost like those knee socks where like they're solid white, you know what I'm talking about? And you have those pants that
Yeah.
are like kind of short so you can see the socks. And then you have those cool looking like things coming out of the collar. And it's like really
Bro,
that's what I want to wear, bro.
I'm telling you, you gotta watch this channel called the Gentleman's Gazette on YouTube. It's like it's classical fashion. You'd cream your jeans over it, I'm telling you.
Probably, dude.
Why can't we just dress eloquently? Why can't we go back to the days of
Yeah,
eloquence?
dude, can we just wear
You know
like
what? I'd wear
robes?
robes. I want to walk around like a druid. That'd be fun. I'd carry a fog machine everywhere I went to.
Druid. But also, like, dude, my linen Nazarene robes are like super comfortable and
Really?
insulating. Yeah, and it's like, oh yeah. It's kind of late. I think 2.5 hours is good, but this was a
Yeah,
good one. I like this one.
this was great. I like it.
Yeah, man. All right. Well, hope everyone enjoyed.
Meh.
Good night. Bye.